right, Chris. I think we're live here, sending to YouTube. Going to make sure everything is correct with Filmmakers Academy, and then we're going to bring this one home.
Yeah, I'm best get up at Filmmakers Academy too, so I can see what people are saying.
One day we have to come up with a name for our fan base. Like,
No.
oh shit, is that Hangers? Oh, nice. I think we're sending to Filmmakers Academy. Let's see.
It says 3 minutes 43 seconds on mine. I'm looking at the countdown clock on FA.
Nice.
See, Shane's doing an office hours in a week or so. Nice.
Yeah, Shane's coming. Nice. We already have someone
Has he
here. It
finished
all
filming?
started with Lost in Space. That's great. Someone's already dropping in
Wow.
some John Williams stuff.
Nash Hall just came out of the gate. Love it.
What's up, everyone?
Well done,
Welcome
Nash
back to another Film Hang. We are up and live. Today's going to be a really fun one for those joining in. It seems like we already have some people in the crowd that knows it is John Williams Day. This is a super exciting with Film Hang. Love seeing that people are showing up hard for this. And yeah, we want to talk about John Williams, an iconic composer. This was Chris's pick for the week. And Chris, I know that you're super excited to talk about this.
I'm well excited about this because John Williams was my foray properly into film and film music. Like, I can honestly say that I trace a lot of my favorite moments in film when I was a kid back to moments that John Williams scored. E.T., things like that. Superman, watching Superman for the first time and hearing that music. It's John Williams is kind of the guy that levels us all and connects us all. Like, I was talking to my father the other day. My dad. I was talking to my dad the other day, and he started whistling Raiders March from Indiana Jones. You know what I mean? I was chatting to somebody else and they were talking about Jaws. It's like he is so integral to our film history. And I really, really love the fact that I got this choice because, yeah, we've talked about a lot of directors. We've talked about a lot of films. We did the drama last time, just recently. We've done a bunch on Scorsese. We've done a bunch on other things. We did a Kubrick film. We did Eyes Wide Shut. And then to be able to now talk about the music and a musician who of one of the highest orders who's still with us right now, and he's still doing films. And at the age of 96, he's doing Disclosure Day, which is out later this year. Is pretty bonkers. So yeah, John Williams. And the thing that I'm loving right now is in this chat, you're already seeing it. There's people writing about music. Oh, it all started with Lost in Space, says Nash Hall. Kind of true. We'll get into that because he did do some scoring for To Kill a Mockingbird, but we'll get into that in a bit. But yeah, tell us about your favorite film moments or John Williams tunes that you love. Get it into the chat. Let's talk about it because that's the best way to honor this guy and his music is to talk about these moments. Was it the moment when we first saw Jurassic Park and that scoring? Was it the moment we first heard, or saw a Brachiosaurus? Was it a moment where we first saw Darth Vader arrive? What was it? Was it a moment in Home Alone when the bad guys arrived in their little renter van? You know what I mean? Like all these different things we need to hear. When was the moment you fell in love with John Williams' music? Because he's iconic.
And you know what I love about today's conversation is it shows the impact that someone can have on a production other than a director. A lot of times in film, we talk about the director as the sole power of impact in the filmmaking process. And of course, the movies that he was tied to, he worked with some of the greatest directors of all time, Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, people that are household names, regardless if you're a cinephile or not. But something that is a common through line for all of John Williams' productions, and not only the director, is the impact that he had in creating music and compositions that transcended the medium of film alone. And I think that's something specifically about him as an artist. And I know, Chris, that you know way more about John Williams. And what I'm most excited about is to sit with Chris and hear from him and kind of get into the mind of what being a composer and someone that has to lead an orchestra. And for those that don't know, Chris, I know that you have a background in classical music, in playing as well. And I think that would be a really awesome context for people to know about you, because you're going to be able to bring a really unique perspective to his work versus maybe just a normal person that just appreciates his music, right?
Yeah, I appreciate that. And it was something that I grew up in the UK playing the tenor horn, it's called. Basically, it's a small sort of tuba, and I was playing that from when I was about 7 years old, and I played it professionally with brass bands, and one of the most famous brass bands in the world is one called Grimethorpe Colliery Band, and they're famous because there was a movie made about them in about 1995 called Brassed Off, right? And it was nominated for BAFTAs. I think it was nominated, even might have been nominated for an Oscar, I think. It had Ewan McGregor in it, it had Pete Postlethwaite, who Steven Spielberg says was the greatest actor of all time. Um, and it had Tara Fitzgerald in it. It had some fantastic stars in it, and basically it was about a brass band in a mining town, and I played for them for about, I don't know, 5, 7 years, something like that, professionally. And we played lots of John Williams music. We played lots of music from different films and stuff like that. So it was something whereby I got to learn on recordings and on concert stages just what, was so important and so difficult about this man's music, and so nuanced about his music too. I'll give you a great example. There's a piece that's in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade called Scherzo for Motorcycle and Orchestra, right? And Scherzo is kind of like an upbeat, sort of funny, enjoyable, sort of dance-like tune, right? And he wrote it for the orchestra for this bit where Indiana Jones is escaping from the Nazis from this castle that him and his dad Sean Connery have been imprisoned in, right? And they have to escape, and the tune, right, is so uh, cleverly written. It's almost like playing Bach or playing classical musicians. It's almost like playing, Rimsky-Korsakov, all this really, really fast-paced, jaunty rhythms that you would have heard in classical music from Mozart or from Bach, from Beethoven, from any of these people. And he wrote it, and it was a fantastic piece of music. And what actually happened was George Lucas said, and Steven Spielberg said, we're actually going to put a motorcycle chase scene over this. And John Williams was like, "You're going to cover this exquisite music, this so cleverly written music with all this detail and nuance. You're going to cover that up with a revving motorcycle that's being chased down this road." And that's exactly what they did. But it's brilliant music, and it's music that entertains without there even being anything on the screen. It just so happens that it accompanies the stuff that's happening on screen so well. And Indiana Jones is great because if you actually play it, and we've done a few of these things where I've played in the orchestras and in the brass bands whilst they've put the film on behind us. One of the coolest ways to watch a film, if you ask me. And when we've done that, you actually notice that Indiana Jones's punches, when he's punching the bad guys and stuff, they line up with the music. The music actually adds to that and sort of, accentuates the punches. So you have these really cool things. And as a musician, you can actually sit within the orchestra and listen to these different bits that are being put in that are very clever. I think there's one, in Hook, the movie about Peter Pan that Steven Spielberg directed before Jurassic Park. There's some really cool moments in there where you have these kind of little tinkling. And although Tinkerbell might not even be in the scene, played by Julia Roberts, I think, although she's not even in the scene, you have this tinkling that goes on in the music score, so you know that she's around. That's the music directly contributing to the narrative of the film. And that's one of the coolest things about this guy as a composer. He writes music that is so intertwined with the film itself. And I know that you can say that about a lot of people. You can say that about Hans Zimmer, you can say that about James Horner, you can say that about Thomas Newman. But there's something about John Williams' music that is so very cleverly written. Um, as I said, I can listen to it. I've listened to it, albums of this guy's music, and just enjoyed it in the car. I'll put it on. Mate, you've never been stuck in LA traffic and you've not thrown on a little bit of Phantom Menace and just, it sped up the journey no end. You know what I mean? Like, this guy's the guy. And I've done a presentation. I've kind of broken down his history because I think in order to know about the composer, you need to know where he came from. You need to know who he learned from. And the brilliant thing about John Williams, and as some of the people in the chat and are already kind of saying, his music is so timeless.
Hmm.
You can see where he's been influenced, like Lost in Space right there. Sci-fi music as well as music that's written for wartime, World War II things like Saving Private Ryan, to things that are like comedies, I suppose. I mean, Home Alone is basically a slapstick comedy, isn't it? You know what I mean? And 1941 is also a World War II comedy with John Belushi in it. So he's done the whole spectrum. And today I think is going to be so cool because we're going to dive into it. As I said, keep telling us. Somebody just put Sorcerer's Stone in the chat. Keep telling us the moments you love from movies that John Williams scored.
Chris, I would love to know, what was the first film that you watched that maybe introduced you to John Williams, or even it could be just got you to fall in love with his work and go down the rabbit hole? Was there one film in particular, at least what that first movie was?
I think for me, like the one that made me that was the soundtrack I got, like, and I asked my parents to help me get it on a tape, was Jurassic Park. Just
Mm.
absolutely, I think that's the greatest film in terms of scoring, in terms of everything ever made. I think it is one of the finest. There's just obviously there's days where I wake up and I say other films, but for me, Jurassic Park was the first thing that made me go, "Oh my god!" And it's that moment where the helicopter, and I've put it into this presentation, but it's the moment where the helicopter's coming across the water, and you know it, right? And they're being taken to the island, and he's gone, "I'm going to show you," right? And he's tied the buckle round him, both male parts or whatever, both female parts, right, of the buckle, ties it round his leg, and then they're approaching this island, and you hear this do 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 do, and it's just like wow. And then, as I said, moments later, he's taking him on this tour around the Brachiosaurus exhibit, and they see the dinosaur for the first time, and you hear this almost hymn-like, reverential, theme that is the do 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 do. You're gonna hear my voice all the way through this pod, guys, and it's I know it's not the best, all right? I'm not winning X Factor, but like it is mesmerizing, and yeah, that was my first. What about you, man?
I don't even know if I could remember my first. It had to have been something from the original trilogy of Star Wars, or it could have been, what was it? What was the second Jurassic Park called? Why can't I think that? Or the Lost World? Or yeah, what was
Lost
it called?
World,
Yeah, Lost World. It might have
The
been
Lost
something
World.
with that. Yeah, I mean, he has so many movies that even for the biggest of the productions that he was a part of, whether it's Harry Potter, whether it's Star Wars, like we said, he also had a bunch of smaller films. I mean, they're not small. The fact that he did Nixon by Oliver Stone,
Yeah.
an amazing movie, one that I watched a lot of as a kid. You know what film, ironic enough, and I think we talked about this during the Martin Scorsese film Hang, was 7 Years
Mhm.
in Tibet with Brad Pitt. Absolutely
Yeah.
loved that movie. That movie was on repeat in my household for whatever reason. We just ate that movie up, and he composed that. Amistad, which is another Steven Spielberg film, but still, that was around my youth. I mean, along with probably
Mhm.
Saving Private Ryan having maybe one of the larger impacts in my youth
Mhm.
when that movie came out, I think everybody loved that film. It was just so different and so visceral. And again, John Williams, I think sometimes it's easy to just think of him for his more like Indiana Jones and Star Wars focused films. But then you have these films
Mhm.
like The Patriot, or again, a lot of them are Steven Spielberg productions, but Nine Minority Report, what an awesome movie. And he was a part of that. And he has these great moments where he can be really grandeur and orchestral, but then he has these subtleties that are found in films like in Munich or Memories of a
Mhm.
Geisha, or I mean, even some of like, I loved Warhorse, which has like that orchestral feel to it as
Mhm.
well. I mean, the dude's been around the block for so long. The fact that he's able to work with these different directors over the course of their career, do weird films like Home Alone, do things
Mhm.
like Empire of a Sun, do things. I mean, I'm just looking through it. Some of the films that he did early in his career, insane. I love that he did Jaws 2 as well. That probably just carried over
Yeah.
from Jaws, but nonetheless, Jaws 2. Yeah, it's just really cool to be able to see someone working at that level for so long who still is to this day, like you said, operating and delivering greatness, and probably never had like any steps in the wrong direction. So I'm super excited to see your presentation, Chris, and dive in.
Yeah, man, I will do. Yeah. I mean, you've said it all. One of the things I will add about 7 Years in Tibet, I love that film because of the escape thing for it. Because he's like
Hmm.
this, and he's like a German soldier escapes. It's like World War II, and he escapes from this sort of World War II camp, and then he
Yeah.
climbs this mountain. Then he meets the Dalai Lama as a kid. Yeah, and you're right. I think better than Kundun, but hey, we're probably biased in that respect because we are. But yeah, guys, John Williams, yeah, arguably one of the greatest composers of all time. Definitely one of the greatest film composers of all time. And here's a little background on him. Um, So he was born February 8th, 1932 in New York City. Now, this is the interesting thing. His dad was a jazz percussionist. So his dad was this drummer. So he got brought up into a musical household, got brought up into this idea of, lots of different rhythms and stuff like that. And then he moves to LA in 1948 with his family and he studies composition and orchestration at UCLA. Right. And what's important about that is this is where he got his compositional and his writing sort of background. Then he goes back to New York and he learns piano at Juilliard School of Music and he starts playing in these New York jazz clubs. And actually playing in these New York jazz clubs, he actually, if you ever listen to music like Catch Me If You Can, or I'd even say The Terminal, the one with Tom Hanks in it, even Cantina Band, Star Wars, that's where he's bringing in all this kind of jazz background that he's got from his dad and from playing in New York jazz clubs. He joins the Air Force Band, and there he's playing with like doing sort of Glenn Miller style music while he's in the Air Force. And, all these kind of sort of swing and jazz, 1950s, sort of early rock and roll music. He's playing the piano on that kind of stuff, honky tonk stuff. And at that time, the Hollywood and the movies that are coming out of Hollywood, the kind of more of the just out of sort of silent movie era and this kind of stuff. So the people that he was watching when he was growing up were people like Korngold and Max Steiner, and I'm going to go into them in a moment. But yeah, I've put in this top corner actually. Bottom corner down here, I've got the John Towner touch, this is the young Johnny Williams. He went by Johnny at that point early on. He recorded these sort of jazz albums. Here he is, a young man. You can kind of just about sort of pick out who he is. And then, yeah, I've put over here, these are the different instruments that he was learning, which I thought was most interesting is this one at the end, the theremin. And do you know what a theremin is, Brendan?
I have no idea.
Theremin was actually invented, and correct me if I'm wrong, if anyone wants to type this in and sort of research it, feel free and jump in. But I think the theremin was actually created as like a security device, and you operate it with your hands. You have two pieces of metal and electric current going in between them, and you put your hands in certain places to get different pitches of notes. And they make this very kind of like ethereal, sort of alien kind of sound, like a wee. And it's that instrument that he uses an awful lot of his kind of sci-fi compositions. He used it in AI, artificial intelligence, as I'll call it. I won't just call it AI, right? He used it in that. He used it in Close Encounters. So you can kind of see these different sort of fingerprints of his work just appearing, and that's where they came from. This early life as a jazz musician and as somebody who grew up in this kind of improvisational background. Now, I've put a video in here. If it freezes, then we won't be playing any more videos, which will be gutting because this is all about music. So this is him playing in some sort of jazz music early on, and this is from his album, which is I just showed it on the last page. This one down here, the John Towner Touch. All right, so let's have a listen to it. Let's have a quick blast of about 10 seconds, 15 seconds of his music. Are you hearing that, Sweens?
Yeah.
It's a very play it again, Sam, very Casablanca-y. You know what I mean? Kind of like I expect him to be sitting in one of these black and white bars playing for that guy from Casablanca when he says, "Play it again, Sam." You know, that kind of stuff. That's what I'm experiencing here. And that's John playing. I mean, look at him, nice and young and all that kind of stuff. And then, yeah, if we move on, this is when he starts going to Hollywood. Yeah, go on, Brendan.
No, I just want to say I would be so curious if I don't know if there's any documentaries. I don't know where you pulled exactly his early life, but that period when he was living in Los Angeles and going to the clubs, I would love to hear him talk about that career or like that part of his
Yeah.
career because I bet you in some ways that was maybe some of his most informative, because he was coming at a time where the larger appreciation of jazz, especially within New York at night, going out
Mhm.
to these clubs, we don't necessarily have that in modern day.
I
Being
agree.
in the 40s, 50s, that would have been so cool because music. I was even listening to a podcast, even how today people just don't dance like they used to back with these jazz clubs. And at that time, there was a lot more social connectivity with music. And I think that's also something that John Williams, as we'll see, and maybe this is part of like what he experienced at this age, is the social, like I said, connectivity of his music. You also feel that in the films that he went on to score and make at a later time. So I don't know. I would love to
Yeah.
hear. I would hope that there's a documentary or someone has at least interviewed him about that period of his life.
I think people are saying this in the chat as well. Like, There is a documentary that's, on Disney Channel or Disney Plus, whatever the streaming for Disney is.
Mm,
It's on that, and I think it's about an hour long, and
yeah.
it's actually pretty good. It deserves a whole series, by the way, because I've picked out some songs on this, but we'd be here doing a Eyes Wide Shut length one if we wanted to focus on a lot of his music. You know what I mean? Because
Hmm.
he really was. But I got a lot of my stuff from this, which is unfortunately unavailable, because it is from the AFI Lifetime Achievement Award that he got from the American Film Institute, and it is fascinating. It does go through every single one of his piece of music or every it scores that he wrote, should I say? But it's also got all of his early life in here as well, showing him. So that picture's one that I actually ripped, which is one from him recording early in the
That's
day in
sick.
Hollywood. But yeah, you're right. I mean, maybe he was. I think I thought you'd like the idea of hearing about him in 1950s New York because he was kind of like a bit of a Nick Nightingale from Ice White Shut. You know, like he
Dude,
was probably
100%.
around the mafia. There's no doubt. Mafia in 1940s and
Oh,
50s New
yeah.
York was rife. Like, this is a guy who was playing at all the New York jazz clubs. He was probably experiencing all of this kind of underworld as well while writing music and while being there as an entertainer. So, yeah, I bet he's got some fascinating stories to tell. And from going, look, 1950s going off to be with the Air Force. I bet he's got some great stories about that too.
Oh my, and you know what's crazy? Especially in Los
Mm,
Angeles, nightlife is no longer the same way it was back then. New York, I still think you have a
mhm,
little bit more of a semblance of a nightlife in the underbelly of the city, especially with the
mhm,
comedy scene, if you know the right places. But it's sad having places like CBGBs in New York or a lot of the like tried and true venues here in Los Angeles. One, they just don't stay open super late, and nightlife in a lot of
mm,
ways that these people probably experience, which only helped them build their career and understand who their audience is and become the artist that they wanted to be. That's something that I
mhm,
don't know if it's just me romanticizing it, but I almost wish that we didn't go the way we did with technology and people kind of siloing things out. Or in Los Angeles, a lot of parties or social gatherings are all in mansions and kind of closed off to the greater public. There's only a few like jazz, rooms left in LA. So super
yeah.
fascinating.
Vibrato Jazz Club is one that's up in Beverly Hills. Again, it seems a bit exclusive now, but you're right. There used
Yeah.
to be Blue Note, all those kind of ones in New York.
The
Yeah,
baked
jazz clubs
potato
were
is pretty
kind of.
much the only really like standard one that's open almost every single day with jazz music in Los
Mhm.
Angeles now. So if you haven't been to
Yeah.
that in LA, highly recommend it.
This actually links as well, just as a complete aside, but I'll do it. To something that I'm going to post next week on our Instagram, which is going to be John Cassavetes quotes. And John Cassavetes used to go to all these jazz clubs and listen to all these cool jazz musicians like Charles Mingus and people like that. And they actually, I think Mingus actually scored one of John Cassavetes' uh, movies. And yeah, there is something that connects this kind of improvisational jazz. In fact, Cassavetes said it. He wished that filmmakers could be like improvisational jazz musicians because they would just turn up and not care about wrong notes or split notes or anything like this, and they would just go at it and see what they could create together. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what he wanted his films to be like. But back to John Williams, like I've put it in here. So this is the guy, as I said, when he comes out of the US Air Force. I hope you can see this. Yeah, you can. Right. When he comes out of the US Air Force up here, that's when he goes to Hollywood. And he actually gets taken over to Hollywood in the 1950s and 60s. And he's playing in sessions. He's a TV composer, which we'll get down to the bottom here. He actually did Lost in Space and Gilligan's Island. He was composing for those TV things close to the 1960s. But really, he was a session player. And he was playing on some of the major film scores of the era. Now, why is this important? Well, it's important because he was inside the room, right? John Williams was literally in the room. He was playing on the greatest film scores of that era, right? He was literally there as they were being built, as they were being recomposed around him for certain parts of the film, And before he reinvented film scoring, he was literally sitting at the piano playing these great scores, absorbing Bernard Herrmann, who wrote Psycho, that tension. He actually played on Psycho, which is really cool because that's one of my favorite film scores again. Mancini, he played on Henry Mancini's jazz theme for the Pink Panther. You actually hear the piano play da 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 da. That's him. You know what I mean? He played on Alfred Newman's orchestral music for South Pacific. And he played on Elmer Bernstein's To Kill a Mockingbird and actually was involved in the composing of that. So he did a lot of these things. These ones that I've put down here are other ones that he worked on. He actually played on Vertigo. So when you're watching Vertigo, which again, phenomenal film, Alfred Hitchcock, then you'll actually see, you'll actually hear a little bit of John Williams playing North by Northwest, piano in that, John Williams. Some Like It Hot, Billy Wilder. These are some really cool films, again, that this guy was actually actively playing on prior to actually composing himself. West Side Story, Leonard Bernstein. So like this is some really cool music. Before you even get there, if he'd retired at this, it would have been enough, I think. But he went on to compose some of the greatest movie themes beyond that. This is Peter Gunn. I've got this one lined up to play. This is kind of like that jazzy Henry Mancini stuff. If you've heard the Pink Panther and watched it, it's great. It's one of the best comedies of all time. Peter Sellers is amazing in it. But yeah, if you want to like listen to sort of like this kind of jazz music that Henry Mancini wrote, here it is, and here's John Williams playing on it. So I won't play it all, by the way, but I'll play some of it.
It's just also at a time where instruments, man, like people actually played music.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they were sophisticated film scores, weren't they? So you can hear him there on the bottom of the piano, dong 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 dong. That's John. He's playing on this movie theme that was massive in its day. I don't know how many more people know it now. You got Psycho, as I said. If anybody doesn't know the theme tune from Psycho, it's awesome. All right, and it's this kind of terrifying thing. Not that bit. That's just the start of this video. Thank you for lending us it. But yeah, the Psycho theme is like terrifying. Saul Bass, by the way, did these titles, and I love Saul Bass. His titles were amazing. I mean, you're hearing syncopated rhythms there, Sweens. You know what I mean? This isn't simplistic writing. This is like some hardcore stuff, and I can't play too much of them because we'll get taken offline. But like this was the theme from Psycho. And again, high up in the strings. One of the things that I'm trying to explain here by showing you guys like the stuff that came before John Williams and the stuff that he was playing on, he took all these together and synchronized them and became this composer in his own right who put all of this into his scores. So the reason we have scores for Jurassic Park and for Star Wars and for Indiana Jones and for like the plethora that Brendan mentioned before and that we'll see as we go on is because he played on these scores. Now, one of the coolest things about Bernard Herrmann's music, Psycho, is he used strings in the high register to create tension and to create that kind of human response of fear and awkwardness. And you heard those kind of chunk, 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 chunk. That was used again when he was stabbing in the shower in Psycho. So you've got that kind of idea of using music to elevate the movement that's going on screen. And you've actually got this kind of theme, this bit.
Just being in those sessions alone, working with those artists and being able to pick their minds, just think of the conversations. And, just like any art form, the competitive nature of always pushing, trying to get better, especially at this time in cinema. We're talking about 1960s. Cinema is entering into what will be for a long time to come, and hopefully there's new iterations of this, but the golden era of cinema, the 60s into the 80s, that 20 years, there's not only amazing movies but amazing compositions, and he got to be a part of that. I mean, it's insane.
You're right. I'm sorry for pushing that on there, mate. I was trying to move the thing on. But you're right. Movies, I feel like what John Williams did was he took all these ideas of this and made it modern. Because you think about it, right? We were going through this stuff in sort of like, I suppose, 70s and 80s where soundtrack wasn't as orchestrally important. You know what I mean?
But you know what?
Brought it back. Yeah, carry on.
Yeah. No, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But it's also at this time, like Something that like I always forget is this is where overtures are certain super important intro credits. There are really no post credits in films because they didn't list all the grips, the production's assistants. In music, like set the tone for the experience that you were about to get into, which is something that I hate that end credits kind of shifted overtures from really not really existing anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of missed that. I don't know about you, but like I
I
think the
miss it.
last time I saw a proper overture, or like kind of like after we've had a slight introduction, and then we'll go into this kind of like I suppose Bond-esque sort of title sequence, which we used to get in every single film. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Uh, the last time I properly saw that done was probably Django or Hateful
The
Eight.
move,
Like in a
yeah, Hateful Eight.
Tarantino movie. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And it's sad really because it is something that I really got to enjoy. It kinda settled me in for the film when I went and saw it. When I was watching Shining, the re-release, in IMAX at the Grove, I think earlier this year, I'd like to say. I think it was in January. Same thing as it's driving through the forest, you just have this, eerie sort of tune as they're going up, and it's like, it really does add to the experience. It gets you set to take on the information of the rest of the film, really. Um, yeah,
That's what I love
I
about
could go through.
Fincher. Yeah.
Go on.
No, that's what I love about Fincher is he at least still does like an intro, like intro sequence for
Yeah.
his movies, you know?
Yeah. I mean, like, dude, the one that springs to mind immediately is Panic Room, when the
Hmm.
intro sequence is as you go through the floor, right? And it does that really cool tracking shot down.
Yeah.
Exceptional.
It, it's awesome.
Exceptional, you know? And we've just got to see Saul Bass, and if anybody wants to look through any more Hitchcock movies, the majority of it, North by Northwest is a famous one, Saul Bass inspired sort of titles, and yeah, he's very, very cool, and I've got books back home in LA on him. Um, if I can share the screen again, um, not to labor too much about the people that influenced John Williams, but like again, we talked about To Kill a Mockingbird and playing on that. This one, I felt like Elmer Bernstein, who composed this, who John worked with closely on this soundtrack. Again, he's the guy who brought sort of this emotional side. What John Williams does in his music, and we'll see this when we go through things like Schindler's List and stuff like that, he could literally make instruments weep or convey an emotion during a scene so that we can take on dialogue and everything like this, but we know where the emotion's going. Even people that don't speak English as a first language or something, it's easy for them to pick on exactly where the emotion of the scene is based on John's music. And we kind of get that in this, in To Kill a Mockingbird, which is, we're going way back. I can't even, in fact, let me
Hmm.
have to take a quick look at the actual date for To Kill a Mockingbird. Yeah, we're going way back to 1962. You know what I mean? For To Kill a Mockingbird. And this guy, remember this guy? Robert Duvall?
Dude,
R.I.P.
rest in peace.
Boo Radley. I know. Phenomenal. Anyway, yeah. So this bit here, if I click this, hang on, let me click this scene. Yeah. This music here in this scene, let me just put the sound up.
I don't know. All of a
It's
sudden,
so
somebody grabbed
beautiful
me
and so
and
really
began on the ground.
lightly written.
Jim
Again, we
found me
don't
then.
need the strong music. We
He
don't
missed
need the
you, I
strong score
reckon.
for this bit.
Grabbed him
We just
again.
need a nice little
Jim
bit of
found me.
music. So when she sees Boo
Then
Radley for
somebody
the first
grabbed
time,
me
who's
more.
like the town bogeyman, and they've
Missed
told
you,
all
I
these
guess.
stories about him in the film, but then when
Somebody
he
grabbed
eventually
him.
turns up, he's a nice guy,
And
and
then
he's
I
actually
heard
a
someone
savior and a
panting
person
and
they just,
coughing.
totally misunderstood. This is the music we get when we first meet Boo Radley, and it's
And I
beautiful.
saw Boo.
Miss Jean Louise, Mr. Arthur Radley. I believe he already knows you.
What absolutely beautiful music. And hang on, let me just flick this off so that way I don't keep getting that. But what absolutely beautiful music and so innocence conveyed within a score. We didn't need any dialogue other than "Hey Boo," to understand that this guy is actually an incredibly childlike and innocent individual. The same strings, same high pitch and everything like this, but this beautiful way in which we convey emotion through music. And that's something we're going to see from John Williams, going forward.
Hmm.
So I thought it was really important in this early part of this kind of conversation to go, right, where did he get all these ideas from? And it's not just these guys. You know, he had Alfred Newman again, who won an Oscar for The Robe, I think it was, right? Which is this sweeping kind of classical music, very kind of romanticized classical music. But also he had these little sort of flourishes with Elmer Bernstein, who was writing some phenomenal music at the time, Great Escape and stuff like that. And then, as I said, Bernard Herrmann doing Psycho. I mean, you're learning from all these different people and putting them all together. And one of the guys that he learned an awful lot from was this guy. And this guy, I could do a whole thing on him alone, right? Is a guy called Eric Wolfgang Korngold. Now, you don't call your kid Wolfgang without him becoming a musician, I think, in Germany. You know what I mean? Yeah, Korngold was basically this theatre composer, and he wrote music for ballets and theatre all across Europe, all across Germany and Austria and all that kind of thing back in the day, back in the 1920s. Okay, the day was 1920s. Okay, and composers like Richard Strauss, who did the music Also Sprach Zarathustra that's used in 2001: A Space Odyssey by Kubrick, right? That guy, and Giacomo Puccini, who's an Italian composer who was very, famous classical composers. They lauded Korngold for his compositions. You know what I mean? He was celebrated by these guys, and he was brought across to Hollywood again, early 1920s, by a guy called Max Reinhardt, who was doing Hollywood silent films back in the day. Right. And he began collaborating with Reinhardt on a bunch of productions. He was doing all these different sort of like recompositions of classical pieces. And eventually, one he did was on waltzes that came from Vienna, so sort of like, Blue Danube and stuff like that. And they were used in a 1934 British film that was directed by a little-known chap called Alfred Hitchcock. So Korngold worked with Hitchcock early on, and that is how John Williams came to know his work and came to love his work. He also worked on this little number, which if I flick it across now, is Robin Hood. With Errol Flynn right here, right, in 1938. And this won him the Oscar, I think. In fact, no, I'm wrong. He won the Oscar for Captain Blood, which is this one here with Errol Flynn in it. But basically, Korngold was the swashbuckling, the hero arriving to save the damsel in distress music guy. You know, like when he comes flying in on a rope and he jumps down and then he fights off 50 guys with a sword and he runs up some steps that seem to go to nowhere and then he jumps onto like a candelabra and he swings over people and stuff. The music that accompanied him doing that was Korngold. And I found this really cool clip that's from The Adventures of Robin Hood, right, with Errol Flynn in it. Oh, I'll tell you a little story about Errol Flynn quickly, Brendan, if you want, right? Errol Flynn was a raging alcoholic, and he was told, so much so, he was told that he wasn't allowed to have alcohol on set when they were filming films because he would drink all the time that he was on set, right? Here's the coolest thing about Errol Flynn. He injected vodka into oranges and would walk on set with like a bag full of oranges. And then when they were filming, he was sitting chomping on an orange all the way through and having the best time of his life. So
That's
there's
awesome.
the coolest little sort of that. If you want to know where that story came from, I think it's Hollywood Babylon, which is what Babylon by Damien Chazelle was based on. It's a great book. I think it's $10.99 on Amazon. You should all get it because it's really, really cool. It talks about Chaplin and some of the kind of scandals he got involved in and stuff. It's great. But yeah,
That's
here's the
awesome.
music from Robin Hood, this swashbuckling. So what you're listening for here in what John Williams went on to do. What you're listening for here is this kind of heroic sort of writing, which we see in Indiana Jones and we see in Star Wars and all these other things. But this is Robin Hood from 1938 by Korngold. Let me play it. So that right in this bit in the scene, so Richard the Lionheart has been kind of deposed by King John, and this King John's like the bad guy, and he's just about to be crowned, and Robin Hood, right here, this guy, right, is about to sweep in and save the day and stop him, all right? So this music you're about to hear, some real swashbuckling themes, and the hero coming out and saving the day, and music accompanying it.
To receive the blessing of the church.
By right of blood succession, according to the law of the realm.
Put this on
Of
present
your
so
own
you
free
can
will
see.
that you thus depose your brother, Richard the Lionheart of England?
Richard no longer
There we go.
exists. From this moment forward, I, John, am King of England. Aren't you a little premature, brother?
You hear that trumpet being used? Think about the trumpet that gets used in sort of Star Wars to announce, the opening. Sweeping strings, doing all these chromatic runs.
Dude, insane. That wide shot.
Right? Yeah.
I don't think I've ever
Real
seen
extras.
this.
Oh, mate, it's top notch. They're all free.
Is it
on
sped
YouTube.
up
Come
or
watch
is
them fully.
this like a YouTube thing?
No, this is real.
Okay.
You're right. It does seem a bit faster than normal.
Yeah. It's insane how many movies there are. Like, no matter how much of a cinephile you think you are, there's just more movies than there is time in a lifetime to be able to watch them. It's insane.
Absolutely right. And the crazy thing is, how many Robin Hood movies have we had? You know what I mean?
Oh my
Just on one
God.
topic.
We already have
you
another
get
one
the
right
gist
around
on
the
that.
corner. Yeah.
So you get the gist on that, right? That's basically, everything that John Williams learned in terms of this. As I said, I keep saying swashbuckling, but this kind of idea of, the hero arriving and these really fast running strings all the way, all this really does convey that sense of danger and kind of adventurousness and everything that you hear in Indiana Jones. And not just in that, like Jaws was a great example, because when he worked on Jaws, John was told by Spielberg, this is what this movie's like. It's more of a horror movie, blah, blah, blah. And Williams was like, no, this is a pirate movie. These guys are going out on a boat to go and get the bad guys. Like, and it's this kind of, he was like, this is pirates on a boat fighting a shark, and he wrote it like that. If you listen to the bit when the orca, the boat goes out after, with the three of them on it to go and hunt the shark. When you hear that going out, it's the same kind of heroic music, this kind of fanfare of them going out to sea. And it's exactly that kind of thing. It's what we've heard from Korngold. If anybody wants to listen to it, there's loads of interviews that John Williams has done on Korngold and his influence over him. This is one of them. I won't play it now, but this is Willie. In fact, do you want me to play it now, Brendan? I mean, I think it's.
Well,
1
actually, I
minute
have a
long, but
question for you, Chris, that might be
Go for it.
like within the scope of especially this period, considering composers and coming from classical music in that period of telling stories before there was motion pictures, right? It seems like a lot of the same architecture from that period was placed into movies, but do you know some of the methodology or like how they came up with these ways of using music to be able to help like personify certain aspects of the movies? I don't even know how to like put this question into place, but like what was the thought process of a lot of these composers in the 1920s where movies and in a little even after that, where movies are still new? Like it's crazy how good they were at, crafting this stuff, but I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, it was an experimental time, and I think that what that leads me into is a really cool, interesting element of compositions that, as I said, John Williams learned and then took forward, because it was an experimental time, and Williams is learning from classical composers as well as the guys that are in Hollywood doing it at that point, right? And the classical composers he's looking back at are operatic composers, and one of them, probably the most famous of all time, right, is Wagner, Richard Wagner, who wrote what's called the Ring Cycle. And I know you as a fan of Lord of the Rings, and as a lover of Tolkien and those kind of like a great mythical sort of fantasy quests and stuff like that that are being told through, film and everything like that. Richard Wagner's Ring Cycle was about, and I'm going to crucify it here, so I won't go into too much detail because I don't know entirely what it was all about, but it was about this I think it was like a dwarf that stole gold and made it into a ring and then gave the ring power. Very similar Lord of the Ringsy, very Tolkien-esque. And then he's fighting against giants, against Valkyries, who are like these sort of flying beings, against Wotan and these Norse gods. And there's all that kind of stuff comes in. It's very mythical and very exciting. And it was an opera cycle, and it lasted, I think that it gets performed over 3 nights because it's about 9 hours long. It's a very long opera, But what's cool about it is, as I said, it's very similar to kind of Lord of the Rings. You have Fellowship, you have, the Two Towers, and then the Return of the King, so told over three things. The same thing in this opera. And what was great about it was Richard Wagner was writing so that he could introduce characters through themes, and not just characters. He could also introduce places. He could introduce objects. He could introduce ideas. So throughout his Ring cycle, he has these different musical themes. One's characters, and one of the main characters was a guy called Siegfried, right? And Siegfried has a theme, and then Siegfried's, I think, Brunhilde. The story is actually told in Django Unchained, which is wild, by
Hmm.
Christopher Waltz's character, right? But you have Siegfried and you have Brunhilde, and you have all these different characters are all depicted by themes. And then what he does is he puts in different feelings. So you have death, you have remorse, you have guilt. They have themes, and they have these little sort of, as I said, 4 bars, 8 bars, not long, maybe 10 seconds, 20-second themes, maybe even less. Might even be just a little flourish. Like if I sang da 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 da, that's literally Darth Vader's theme. And whenever we
Hmm.
watch the space opera that is Star Wars, you hear that, that either Darth Vader is around, or the dark force, or whatever you call it, the dark side is around, or somebody's about to turn to the dark side. That tune itself is used by John Williams in the same way Wagner used all these different themes in his Ring cycle. You know what I mean? And as I said, like I've put them all on here. We don't need to play them all, but you have Valhalla has a theme that goes da do 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 do, right? And you also have Siegfried, and you have the Ring itself. You have Fate actually has its own theme, right? All these different things are presented early on in the Ring cycle in this opera, and then they're brought together in different pieces of music, right? And there's one piece that's called The Entry of the Gods into Valhalla that I think comes at the end of the first part, the first 3-hour segment. And it's literally all of the themes all together, all written in different instruments and all this kind of stuff. And they make up one main score. Now, that in itself is mesmerizing. That is like writing a script, and having all your different characters, and then they all come together at the end of the first act to propel us into the next one. That through music is nigh on impossible, because they've got to work, they've got to homogenize, they've got to harmonize, they've got to either clash where you want them to clash. All that kind of stuff is so important. And this was all done to help the audience track the story, to track the emotion without any dialogue. Like in opera, you can't follow every word that's being sung. And in the same way in ballet, if you ever listen to Prokofiev, Romeo and Juliet, you follow it musically. You know what I mean? As well as through the dance on stage, you follow it musically so you can tell where the emotion's meant to be. And John Williams does this, and this is precisely what he was picking up on and then using to propel film forward. You know what I mean? So that way, then you can have Spielberg just focusing on the action of the scene. And when we look at things like Jurassic Park, when the kids are running away from the velociraptors, you can tell where different things are based on the music. You know what I mean? And you can tell what's in the scene and what isn't. You can tell how we're meant to feel as an audience and how we're not. Again, I talk about Darth Vader's theme. That evolves throughout Star Wars. I'm not just talking about one Star Wars. I'm talking about all 9 episodes from Phantom Menace right through. And if you're rating from 4, 5, and 6, fine. Then 1, 2, and 3 after that, and then 7, 8, 9. They evolve. We hear how Darth Vader evolves as Star Wars goes on, because musically he slows it down, he changes the rhythm, he changes, like, there's moments where you just hear this do 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 do, and that's it. So it's kind of like just segmented up, it's shortened. You might only hear certain chords out of it. You might even hear the whole chord scheme just be played by those 4 notes. And in the same way, do 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 do, ironically, heard those notes being played in Project Hail Mary. You know what I mean? That's become almost a symbol for alien life. You know what I mean? That's John Williams' theme tune for us exploring other realms. So this is what's really cool. And as I said, they'll intertwine, they'll play, it'll show conflict if we play both themes together. It might show relationships if we play them together. Really, really cleverly done. And if you want to search things, this is the Vader things. I included this just to show that changing. But I kind of sang it anyway because people like my voice. But like I can play that now. But if anybody wants to ever look this up, type in leitmotif, Leitmotifs, leitmotif, right? Basically theme tunes in Star Wars. There's so many, right? And we're not just talking, as I said, Luke, Leia, Han, Chewbacca. We're not just talking about for each character. We're also talking about for emotions. We're also talking about for the home planet of Alderaan. We're talking about for all different kinds of things. So lots being introduced and lots being played with. And like I said, that's what's really cool. Here's the Vader one, and here's how the Vader one changes from the moment that I put it in. This is the first time it comes in Star Wars Episode 4. This is the most famous rendition of it. This is his Imperial March. This is whenever Darth Vader's turning up to fight. This is it.
Vader, the fleet has moved out to flight speed and we're preparing to...
Just in the background there, you know? Just to introduce him again as he comes through. And slower versions, and it goes on, and we hear it all the way through. So all the times that it's being used, and if you want to look at something that's really cool, Inside the Score does a real good job of this. It really does focus on all different John Williams themes in different movies as well. I would highly recommend this, and I've got a few others that I would recommend as well, but that's a real top video resource for if you just want to learn about the music that's behind the films that you're studying. Let me go on to another bit. Yeah, one of the coolest films. Go on, Brendan.
No, I was just gonna say, it just goes to show the level of craftsmanship at which he's operating at as well. You know, just to be able to have those iterations on top of a theme and being able to see that over multiple films and be able to know when to best implement what like theme or the word that you brought up there. It's cool. You know, I love to see that craftsmanship, and it's only one of the many attributes in a film. You know, something that's that complicated only makes up the score, and then you have the tangible bits being the lighting and shooting it and the costume. Just goes to show how much is in sync all at once to be able to make something really good.
Yeah, I mean, and when you have somebody like John Williams, I imagine he does a lot of the thinking for you. You know what I mean? I imagine that.
Yeah.
I mean, what was it? He said, I think him and Steven Spielberg said it best, right? Spielberg said to him, he said to Spielberg when he was asked to score Schindler's List, he said, I don't think I'm capable of scoring this, or something like that. And Steven Spielberg, he said, I think that there are other people that should be scoring this, something like that. And Spielberg said, there are, but they're all dead. And that's the, you know, like it's that thing of he was the best at the time to do this. I mean, like one of the coolest examples of him scoring and using leitmotif, this brilliant word, as I said, these little theme tunes, is in Home Alone, which I've tried to do our film hang version of here, Brendan. Do you like that? That is.
Yeah, I love
That's our
that. I
Home
was wondering
Alone
what was
style.
going on here. I was like, that's a new version of our logo.
You know, like that. It looks very 90s, doesn't it? Like that is literally
does.
the that's literally
Everything in
font
the
used on
90s
Home
had a
Alone.
drop shadow. Everything in the 90s had a slight drop shadow.
You know what? I'm glad. I appreciate that because I went to town on that drop shadow. I was like, this looks horrendous. This looks dated. But yeah, it is. I mean, if I go on the next page, next one after this, right, wherever it is, there's the Home Alone logo. Where is it? Yeah, Home Alone logo here, right? And it looks pretty near damn it. I'm pretty proud of it. You know, like I put the little light bulb in the top of our film reel.
Good job, Chris.
If you wanted,
good job,
guys. You feel free to download, guys. We won't sue you for it, right? The coolest thing with Home Alone, right, with all the leitmotifs, and again, you see this word, it's right here. Right? That's why I'm. There's so many videos that are brilliant about this, and as I said, just go into it. Like you are. This is hopefully me for a lot of you who haven't really studied John Williams's music in too much detail. Like to lift a rock and to look underneath, because it literally is another world, like a whole element that we haven't explored. You know what I mean? In terms of films, like you can look at Home Alone as a great example of really good writing, top-notch writing by John Hughes, and top-notch directing by Christopher Columbus. But when you start looking at the music itself as well, you go, holy moly, it is otherworldly, like top-notch. And the coolest thing about Home Alone, John Williams is bringing from classical music. Prokofiev is a great one, and it is the Nutcracker. And if any of you have seen The Nutcracker, you'll know that there's bits in Home Alone that have been ripped directly from it or recomposed or rechanged. One of them, when they wake up late and it's like that, straight from The Nutcracker. But again, it's him doing it, writing this new themes based on that to show the family kind of in crisis and trying desperately to get places and stuff like that. Another cool site that I would highly recommend that people go to is this one, B Radfrey or Bradfrey. Bradfrey. I don't know why I said B Radfrey. As soon as I see the BF logo, I'm like, oh, I've crucified it. Right. But yeah, Bradfrey, Bradfrey, whatever he is, right? Phenomenal. This guy's great with all film scores. I think he's just done Dune, right? But there's some great bits in this, and he literally does these little breakdowns of the theme itself and puts in little sort of explanations and explainers of where the different themes are coming in and how they're being used. And the main titles for Home Alone are really cool because they put in all different ones. You actually have the Sugar Plum Fairy, which comes from the Nutcracker, this very kind of high-pitched tinkling sound, which is very kind of innocent and childish. And then you have these deep bass notes for the bad guys, like really kind of gruesome kind of thing. And again, how it ties together this idea of it's a comedy, right? It's a little kid against two slapsticky Three Stooges style idiots. You know what I mean? And if you look back at things like when he was playing on Henry Mancini's Pink Panther, which is about this dopey, slapsticky style cop in Peter Sellers, you can actually see how he's weaving all this stuff in. Let me play you a little bit of the main titles so then you can have a listen. Then I can have a drink of coffee and stop talking for a second. Here's the main titles. Very high pitch, very nice, on a kind of claving over, you know, or glockenspiel, I think. And we have this kind of sinister theme. So we know that there's this mystery going to come on. Listen for the glissandos, these going up and down. Right? In the strings. Very, very sinister, you know? And what's brilliant is, Brendan, we were just talking about it. The overture. This is right in the beginning of the film. We haven't even seen anything yet. We haven't been introduced to the film itself. We don't know anything about the family. This is giving us every single emotion that we're going to feel throughout this.
And it carries through, through the whole film. Are these all
now we
the
have
original?
This theme.
Like what's being played up there, that's all the music sheets from it. Yeah.
Yeah. Da-da-da-da-da. Right? Now, this tune here, that's like a carol. All right? So what John Williams did was he took several different little carols. I think it was 3 different little carols, right? And one was Star of Bethlehem. I can't remember what the other one was, but the third one was Carol of the Bells. And he took all those and he put those into the score so that he said what they were was these carols were like guardian angels over Kevin. You know, the main character, little Macaulay Culkin character, and this kind of very innocent, very beautiful, very innocent theme, you know, that's perfect for whatever he was, an 8-year-old, all right? And then, as I said, it completely juxtaposes against that bad guy theme that we have there. It's a work of genius. And as I said, John was brought in very late on in the process. He was brought on to see how he did it, and they didn't think he'd say yes to it, and he did, and I think this is arguably his best, like one of his best scores. I absolutely love every bit of the music in this. I think it really connects, you know, and it takes us straight into that movie perfectly, you know. So yeah, highly recommend Bradfrey. Yeah. Let me get onto another bit so I can talk about other influences in his life. 1 second, how do I get off this? Okay. So that was Corn Gold, and we've talked about it. We had leitmotif, we have this adventurous, heroic operatic writing that he got. I've talked already about the swashbuckling scenes and Jaws, and lots of brass and stuff like that. So that was Corn Gold itself. Another guy that John Williams was kind of inspired by, as I said, Bernard Herrmann, the guy who did Psycho, right? And the best example, I think, of Psycho or of psychological style writing, right, is in Jaws. Okay, and it's this idea of he doesn't need to write themes all the time, even though I mean, we didn't see, everybody knows this, who's a cinephile. In Jaws, we didn't see the shark for whatever it was, like an hour, right? An hour into the film, we didn't even see, I don't even think we saw any of it, right? You know what I mean? We might have seen like a little boy disappear off a lilo, but we didn't see the shark for an hour into the film. It had to be built up with these repeated 2-note patterns, and what musicians call ostinati. Okay, repeated notes, and it is this constant relentlessness. Now, what's really cool about this, and I didn't actually put it in here, but yeah, I suppose I did. Rhythm and inevitability. It is constant. He wanted something to sound instinctual, like it was stalking you, right? That idea of do, 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 do. And I can't remember which comedian it was, but he says, now I can't go in the water without hearing somebody on a cello following me around. You know what I mean? Because it literally is do, 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 do. And it's terrifying. You know, this bit that I've put down at the bottom here, that's how John Williams signed his signature in the 70s and 80s, right? After he'd composed Jaws, he used to write this and then he'd sign his signature underneath. He would literally draw out a stave and would write down the opening 2 bars of Jaws, you know, and throw in, by the way. Oh, mate, how cool is it that you get to sign your signature with a musical motif that everybody will recognize? And also, by the way, such is John Williams's attention to detail, he puts the accents in. These are accents to say to hit that note harder. So,
How long does it take for him to sign his signature every single time?
I know, right? Can you imagine at a premiere, people like John's still down the red carpet? He's going to be here for the next 2 weeks. I wouldn't want to be behind him on Jaws. You know what I mean? Can you imagine Spielberg is like, come on, John, right? The movie's over. He's still signing, you know?
That's awesome.
Yeah, this bit of the video here that I'm going to play is the get out of the water scene. Everybody knows it as the Zolly scene or the Dolly scene, whatever you call it, a Zolly, which I
Zolly.
I love, mate. That phrase blows my mind. I've been calling it a dolly zoom all this time. You introduced me to
think
Zolly.
that's the officials. Yeah, I think dolly zoom's the official way to say it, but I hear people say Zolly for sure.
I love it, man. It sounds like, it makes me feel like it's the most that a filmmaker's ever felt. They sound like a surfer, you know, or like a skateboarder.
Oh, 100%.
Let's do a quick Zolly. You know what I mean? Here's how he does it, right? So he creates this, again, Bernard Herrmann style. Bernard Herrmann, whenever you want to hear Bernard Herrmann, Psycho, right? He creates this psychological kind of nerve-wracking music, stuff that will literally make you tense when nothing's happened. You know what I mean? It's just, he draws it out. How does he do it? Like I said, that inevitability, that but also limited harmonic music. He doesn't move around too much. He keeps it very much in the same place. All the chords are in the same place, everything. And that stasis, that lack of movement harmonically, it's not sweeping up and down the score like we've said in Robin Hood. He's not sweeping up and down the score like in Jurassic Park. He's keeping it very close. And that stasis leads to that anxiety. Also, he leaves chords unresolved. So when things are left unresolved, inside us, it's a bit like us with like a movie that just kind of ends and you're like, oh, what? I wanted it to go here. I wanted it to go there. I wanted this to happen. I want that to happen. That lack of resolution leaves us unsatisfied and leaves us almost on the edge. You know what I mean? Leaves us over the precipice and then stops, like in a roller coaster when it just goes over the edge and teeters and waits and waits and waits before resolving. That bit creates that psychological tension. In the same way, like I said, minimalism. He's not putting stuff flying all over the place. It's very, very repetitive, very, very instinctual, and very, very low key at this point. And that's how he creates that tension. And if you listen to this bit here, where it's the get out the water scene, give you a little bit of background. Little kid's gone out into the water when they've been warned that there is potentially a shark on the loose, right? The beach has been opened. This little kid's gone out in the water, and Roy Schneider here is going to get a very awkward moment that is the Zolly. Let's have a look.
Hey, Mike, I know you got a lot of problems downtown, but I've got a couple of problems at the house I wish you could take care
Listen
of.
for the music.
One, I've got some cats parking in front of the house. I can't.
Great shot. Great shot.
Next to the office. Right there. So then use a red zone. It's a simple thing to take care of.
Honey, would you come here a minute, please? Please.
So nothing right now. There's no music in the background here. So wait for it to come in.
Listen, if the kids go in the water, it's really no, and they can play out here on the beach.
All right, let me ready.
There's the poor kid. He don't even know what's going to hit him.
It's cold. We know all about you, Chief. You don't go in the water at all, do you?
Some bad hat, Harry.
Chief Brody, you are uptight. Yes. Come on. That's it.
Oh, the dog's gone missing. I forgot about this. There's its stick. There it is.
So good.
Such a great moment in any film, right? I'm glad that we left that going, by the way, because I'm glad that we could just appreciate epic moments in film. By the way, anybody wanting to go and see stuff about it, it's at the Academy Museum right now
I was
in
just
LA.
about to say.
And it's awesome. It's such a. Have you been yet,
Is
Brendan?
it
I'll
good?
take you.
No, I have not the chance. I haven't had the
great.
chance.
It's so good. They've got so many cool things about it. And there's a bit that's dedicated to John Williams that has the clock on the wall that he would use when he was doing a spotting session. And a spotting session is basically when you're recording the music to go with the film, right? And the spots that come up when they're playing the music across the screen like this, there's a spot, and that's where you start playing, right? And he's doing these, and they've got the clock that they've got from the spotting session. They've got his baton, and they also have like a keyboard there so you can play the notes do, 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 along to the music. And it's such a cool exhibit. There's so many cool bits
That's
in it. There's
sick.
like the original script. Yeah, it's great.
What did it
But,
replace?
you heard
Did
it.
it take all of the Guillermo del Toro stuff out, or what did it replace at the Academy Museum?
I think it replaced the Haigh. Well, about 2 years ago, there was the Hayao Miyazaki exhibit
Yeah.
that was great. That left. And then I think color then came in, which was like color in film. That was awesome, right? And it was showing how they did different, how they used to paint the cells,
Yeah.
each different film cell and everything like that. It was fascinating. The color exhibit was one of the best exhibits that the Academy Museum have ever had. But then now they've brought Jaws, and it's there until I think July of this year, and it is
I'll have to go
worth
check it out.
every penny.
Yeah.
It's great. It's such a great one. And downstairs, they've still got Barbie, the Barbie production designer who did Beauty and the Beast and stuff like that. That's a great
I saw the
exhibit too.
Cyberpunk exhibit also just closed recently, is changing over too, which I really like that one, even though it was super small. I thought that one was really well done.
Yeah. I mean, it showed you in terms of, because what was on there? Oh, yeah, they had like Terminator 2 in there as well, didn't they? All different kinds
Yeah.
of bits. I think they had Tron in there. Yeah, there was some really cool bits in that. I love that. So, yeah, so you heard it there. That kind of strings moving up the scale as we did the Zolly. You know what I mean? It just, again, he's doing what you're doing visually with the camera.
Hmm.
You know, pushing the camera in whilst pulling the zoom out, right? He's doing that musically whilst we're seeing it being done visually. So he's adding to that whole thing. Again, it's him doing something completely in parallel to what we're seeing visually. And I think that that's what makes John Williams' scores so cool, is that you can literally, there is actually, you can buy DVDs now. I know that they've just done Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. You can watch a film now that's just, it says score only version. You can literally watch a DVD and click play on Indiana Jones, and I think that the dialogue is very low or muted even, and you are just watching it with the score playing.
I've
And
never heard of
different
that.
element entirely. Yeah. Indiana Jones, I think I even might have put a picture of it in just to kind of like convince people that it's a really cool idea. It might not be to some people, but to me, I love it. I think it's great because you're watching a film in a totally different way. You're appreciating it for something totally different. And in fact,
Well,
there's a
tell
bit
people-
later on in this present. Go on.
Tell people your process of how you watch like Turner Classic Movies in the background when writing, because I think that's super
Oh,
like unique.
This happened when I came to FA, when you and I were working together on something. I think it might have been a workshop for FA. And I said to Brendan, do you do that thing that Scorsese tells people to do? And he goes, what do you mean? And I said, if you put on classic movies from the 30s, 40s, 50s, like proper old black and whites, go back to sort of Lucky Luciano or, Public Enemy or any of those kind of things. Not Public Enemy is the Michael Mann version, which is awesome because you'll get distracted and you won't be able to do your work. But the old Public Enemy with Ginny Cagney in it. If you watch any of these old black and whites and you chuck them on in the background, my father-in-law downstairs, he's doing he puts on cowboy films and stuff like that. They put them on in the background, you know what I mean? And they're really cool because you actually, it's either just dialogue and there's no music, or it's the opposite. There's tons of music and there's very little kind of dialogue going on, so you can just have it on in the background. And it's great because you appreciate the movie sonically, auditorily. It's like having a podcast on while you're working, except for you've got something, that's classic movies, and it's fascinating to have on because you will do work. Don't worry, you won't get distracted by it, but there'll be moments where you'll look up and you'll see the way the blocking's been done, or you'll see the way that certain aspects of the filmmaking has been done, and you appreciate it in a totally different way. So if you ever want to try something, I mean, I bet your boss will fire you at work if you just shut the TV on and start watching black and whites. But like, if you ever want to just appreciate something, even put it on a different tab. I've put on Jurassic Park, even though that's not 20s, 30s, or 40s, or 50s. But I've put Jurassic Park on multiple times just in the background, just to play. And I can appreciate it whilst I'm working. Just the music, you know what I mean? I can appreciate it auditorily. And I mean, I'm sure Brendan, if you want to type in score only version, like Indiana Jones definitely has one, but I wonder how many more there are, because that is awesome. And that is something we should always champion, because it allows us to appreciate the visuals with music and not just focus entirely on dialogue. This guy, while you're doing that, and feel free to jump in on me, Brendan, I don't mind, right? But this guy is Henry Mancini. And as I said, famous for Pink Panther, but his jazz scores were absolutely awesome. And this is a guy that, as I said, if you will listen to Catch Me If You Can, arguably one of Spielberg's best films, I think. Catch Me If You Can, with Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hanks in it. All about this guy who is like a con man. Well, he isn't like a con man. He is a con man, right? And the scoring for this is brilliant. And it's like this very kind of like improv jazz on a saxophone. It's very kind of like band apart, very kind of like Goddardy, I think. Playtime, even for Truffaut. Is it Truffaut? No, Tati. Playtime. Very, very chill. By the way, Playtime, I watched a great Instagram on. Just getting wildly taken off course, but Playtime, I watched a great Instagram on. That Playtime is awesome, right? I hadn't appreciated Playtime before, but it is a great film. If anybody wants to watch a brilliant film,
is insane.
It's amazing. Like,
it's one of the
so
best
much
films
random
from
stuff
that
going
period. For a movie in
It's-
1967, it's like Tati was just an insane director. All of his body of work, but just the way he's able to showcase the worlds that he's trying to speak to. And he was an awesome filmmaker. Highly recommend Playtime.
Yeah, I'd agree wholeheartedly. Have a listen to this one, though. This is closing intro sequence from Catch Me If You Can. Listen to how different this is to the swashbuckling and the craziness that we've had in previous things I've just been showing you. Very kind of light, very kind of sneaky. We've kind of just heard a little bit of this in Home Alone, I suppose. You know what I mean? But he's very good at creating these very mysterious atmospheres. And now I've told you that it's about a con man, played by DiCaprio. It matches perfectly. You know what I mean?
Great intro. Like, love that.
Yeah.
I wish more movies had intro sequences, man.
It's brilliant. And again, Saul Bass inspired. Now that we've talked about Psycho, you can't help but see it, can you? Look at it. It's Psycho-esque, I suppose, like North by Northwesty. You know what I mean? But again, like, that's really cool, this kind of creeping up on you kind of atmosphere. And again, we've not seen any of it yet. We don't even know who Frank Abagnale Jr. is. But this intro sets you up for it. And it was kind of out of left field. Nobody expected it to do as well as it did. And then it it was like a massive hit. And as I said, one of the best. I wrote down a bunch of things here, but yeah, these jazz harmonies is one thing. The playful orchestration that you've just heard there, and then these swing rhythms. We hear it in that. We also hear it in, as I said, Cantina Band scene from Star Wars. It happens all the way through that bit, and also the Terminal, which is the one with Tom Hanks in it. Brilliant stuff. If I play you a bit, when there's a bit in this scene, the Terminal, which is when Tom Hanks's character, who is a man who is trapped in the terminal of an airport, he can't go out. His country's at war, so he can't go back to his country. He can't go out into America because he doesn't have a visa, so he has to stay in the airport terminal, and he's there for months. And in this scene that I'm going to play you now, it's when he's collecting quarters so he can go and get himself food, and he's collecting quarters by returning the trolleys and stuff like that. It's very, very clever, but listen to the music, the way that it kind of carries us through that moment. And again, this kind of sneaky, cheeky, kind of playful skirt saw music that I talked about before. Have a listen.
What's going on? That's Zavorsky. He's figured out the quarters.
And it's got this kind of Eastern European lilt to it because that's where Zavorsky's character came from. And John Williams was taking folk music from that era and recomposing it to be Victor's theme, which is what we hear in this. I told you at the beginning, he played clarinet. He learned clarinet when he was younger. Steven Spielberg played clarinet too. He's using that clarinet to play the main theme, the Victor's theme. You know? And I think it perfectly sums up the way that Victor is this kind of cheeky, you know what I mean? Like he's found a way. He's sneakily found a way to pay for his food and to stay in this airport. So again, brilliant writing, and inspired by Henry Mancini or John Williams' time with Henry Mancini, should I say. You know, again, if you want to look up some cool stuff on this soundtrack, Mundo BSO, I've not crucified that one. That's a great one that talks about his music. B. Radfrey, but yeah, have a listen to that one. That's a great one. Finally, as I said, we've talked about the different people. Alfred Newman is this guy that wrote some phenomenal, like the pieces that he wrote, like King and I and stuff like that. Some really, really cool music. In fact, I've got a list of his stuff. So why am I just riffing on this and just not saying it out loud? Yeah, he wrote a bunch of different music that was for like King and I and stuff like that. I haven't got it in front of me, Brendan, but like if you want to have a look up Alfred Newman, there's tons of different soundtracks that he wrote on. In fact, if you look up his IMDb, it's surreal because it says that, if I remember correctly, it says that he is credited still on things like Family Guy scores and American Dad and stuff like that. And it's because his music's still being used in different episodes of things today. So that's how modern Alfred Newman's music was, which is what John Williams was playing on. You
Family
see?
Guy, Bob's Burgers, The Simpsons, The Great North. He's on every single year. He has something that's being used. A lot of like 20th century Fox fanfare is what it typically shows up as.
Correct, because that's the one he wrote when he was writing for Fox. So John Williams took this music and used it in, well, the best example is E.T., you know, this really romantic orchestration. Alfred Newman's one that I had an example of down here was The Robe, all right, which was this very sweeping kind of Roman epic in sort of like the 1950s. John Williams used the scale of Alfred Newman when he was writing these big, like, soundtracks, and it was things like soaring string melodies we've got in there. We've also got these mourning violins I've put, and this is something I'm going to get into in a moment, but yeah, E.T. was the best example of this. And in fact, one of the coolest things that I've got from E.T., besides our logo being redesigned in the E.T. style.
You're really on a roll with this.
Right, what do you think?
I love
Mate,
that.
This
I do. It looks
so long
good.
I've sat and played. It's my favorite one.
I love it. I love it.
Wait till you see Jurassic Park, right? I've gone to town on these. Here is John Williams talking to Steven Spielberg about whilst composing the E.T. theme. I don't know why somebody's put these on here. Like, I'm not sure if you can see my pointer, but I don't know why there's 3 exclamation points, whether that's meant to make us more
I thought you
excited.
did that.
I'm gonna say I did. All right, that's literally how I reacted when I first saw this video, and then I had to try and find it for this presentation because it's cool. Thank you, Compositorium, with your 4,000 views. If anybody wants to follow these, please do. But this is John Williams talking to Spielberg about like while he's composing ET and the ET theme on the piano, and I think it's really cool because there's a bit where he says, asking a question, and then he says, all right, how do we answer that? And he's talking about how he composes it. And you just kind of see his process from this. So here is 1 minute and about 27 seconds of John Williams talking about composing ET. 1 minute 48.
If it would be convenient to go into the call.
Yeah. I like that. Matter of fact, it seems like a very natural transition into the loneliness and out of the tenderness.
Yep. Let's see if we can do it.
Okay. Let me go back.
The thing is, where do we shift from the call to the theme? Is it on his smile? Is it when he touches her face? Could be any.
That's a wonderful question, and your choices are as many frames long as the sequence.
We wouldn't let anybody hurt you. We could bond together, E.T.
That's certainly the call.
Yeah, that's the call. That's the call. And this is the loneliness. This is Elliot's love. This is his heartbreaking.
Does he look up again?
He looks up a second time.
But the call has to be there.
Oh yeah.
Look at him pulling back the film, Sweeney. How cool is that?
Dude, technology was such in a different place. The process was just so different, but still a lot of the same ways of probably doing it today, but
it blows me away the fact that this is how they're doing it. He's watching it on this little screen and then he's writing this, and they're talking about emotion.
Maybe once down. Yeah, boy. You could go down once and then go up.
Oh, it's exceptional. I could watch things like
That's awesome.
that all day. Just put that on loop, and it'll have all of my viewing time. It's brilliant, and the fact you hear Spielberg talking about this needs to be Elliot's loneliness. He is giving John just emotions, and John is able to then say, right, this would be better if it was lightly scored here, just to show the isolation and the loneliness. And we see it in the way that he's composed ET. I mean, let me get out of this now, but like the way that he composes ET, again, another brilliant one to listen to if anybody wants to, is listening in how music makes ET fly. Brilliant 15-minute breakdown of this score, which is going to do far more justice than I'm going to do it right now, but really, really good to watch. And I would highly recommend it. But like, again, he's talking about emotion, and this is what I've put here in this bit: emotional pacing. John knows how to pull a theme about like this, and he uses something called rubato, which is a musical term, which is where you have strict beats, 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever tempo we're in, and you pull the music around. You can hold it back, you can give it forward, you can pull it back, but it all stays within the time frame. It's just how he pulls the rhythm around and how he pulls the music around and pulls it back and stuff. And it really adds, like you heard him there, whilst he was playing the piano, he held back before he resolved, you know. And one thing that E.T. does so well is we have the Elliot theme, we have the E.T. theme, and I think he said in one of his interviews, he wanted to show communication. He wanted to show the two sides communicating, and communication was a real key and a key leitmotif of this. And it all comes together in the end when they're flying on these bikes, because we actually hear both themes come together, and then this flying theme with, you know, soaring strings and all this kind of stuff, which is exactly what I've put there. Lush string writing. Again, he gets it from The Robe, Alfred Newman. He gets it from The King and I. He gets it from these brilliant old scores and this old romantic writing. And it's one of my favorite bits of any film is the flying theme from E.T. And you can go from that, taking you that high, to the moment that they land when E.T.'s going home, this really heartbreakingly sad music that has that and I like videos like that just show us how they came up with that. It's brilliant. Jurassic Park, let's jump into it, Brendan. All right,
This
because
is the
you've seen
best
Jurassic
one.
Park now.
Yeah,
Right.
this is the best one. Definitely the best logo integration here.
You
Good
like?
job,
I've got
Chris.
the film. the film thing at the bottom down here. Look at that, the little circle there. That's from the film. All right, and then the top is the dinosaur itself.
Looks
Didn't-
great, dude.
You know, when you think about not wasting your time, that was a good 45 minutes. Mate, I mean, Jurassic Park is so cool. This is the opening of Jurassic Park. I don't. Maybe we'll get taken down from YouTube. I don't care.
At
Right,
this
but,
point,
like,
we've pushed our luck here. Let's keep pushing it a little bit further.
yeah. Sorry, Universal. Thank you for letting us use this. We will write you a letter to ask for permission. But here is Jurassic Park. The opening of Jurassic Park. Thing I want to say is there's very little music, very little scoring. It's just notes. It's just long chords and things like this, because we're not giving anything away. We're trying to make it seem a bit mysterious. So we literally have these very deep in the background chords. It's very silent at this point. And in fact, if you want to look back at the bit when the T-Rex attacks the cars in this film, right? No music at all. Let this moment be as tense as it can be without music having to dictate it. So John Williams not just knowing when to score, but when not to score, right? And you'll see it here. Very quiet. This is before we get into anything. It's before we get, before we hear any themes of Jurassic Park. This is the first thing you hear from John Williams' score. I won't play all 3 minutes of it. It'll be crazy.
You're getting some compliments on your logos, Chris.
Ah, you know what? These guys. Thank you, Tom Siri. Yeah, long notes. You hear those? Like very long chords held. We're not having any thematic introductions yet. There's no da-dee. There's none of that. This is just beats, long notes, little bit of flute there that's incongruous. I've tried to put it at the top here. Nothing thematic. It's just synth choral chords, some little incidental material, some abstract gestures, but there's nothing that fits. And why? Because dinosaurs don't fit in this age. Dinosaurs don't fit with us. They don't fit in this world. Very Jaws-y. We don't see the creature. We just hear all this. We see the guy's reactions. Even the rhythms. It's not really like rhythmical. It's all over the place. And you get the point. So like I said, that's how we are introduced to the world of Jurassic Park. And that's what makes it so powerful, because then when we go to like the next bit, oh, by the way, I'll come back to that 1 second. When we get to the journey to the island, which, as I said, is one of my favorite bits. Yeah, let me go back to that, Brendan, because I want to explain that. Let me go back. Right. This guy used to exist online. I don't know where he's gone. And I'm gutted, because I used to love going on his site to see these things that are score maps, right? And he did one for all the old films, and I absolutely loved them. And what it does is it shows you kind of like, if you look up in this top corner here, it shows you what the different themes are, okay, that he's been able to pick out. Leitmotif again. You see the word leitmotif. That's the word of the day, right? But also he goes throughout every minute of the film from top to bottom and tells you when it's getting, like, the music's getting excitable and dangerous and terrifying and all this kind of stuff. And then also what themes are being played and what themes are being introduced here. So you can actually work your way through the entire film. Like, if you're a geek like me, you can print it off, have it on your lap, and then watch Jurassic Park and start circling or ticking bits or whatever you want to do, get the kids involved, right? Whatever you want to do, just use this to stop them being scared of the dinosaurs, right? But yeah, all the way through, and it's really, really well done. And I've tried to find this guy to credit him, but all of his stuff's
Did he used to have a
offline now.
website?
So,
How would you find these? Did he have a website?
type in score maps on Google, and I think his name's, it might be Brandon. I hope it's not Brad Frey, because I've just totally agreed with him again. But yeah, this guy, if you type in score maps, the guy has a website, but it's gone 404 cannot connect or something like that when I last went on it. And I don't know if he's gone entirely on social. I don't know. But if he reaches out to us, then I'll definitely credit him in our video. But I love these things. And he did one for Once Upon a Time in the West that's brilliant. He's done it for a bunch of different films. And it's just fascinating to look at it and kind of go, okay, yeah. You know, for anybody who's a layman who's not like got a music degree or doesn't understand sort of harmonic drift and all this kind of stuff and majors and minors and atonalities and polyharmonies and all that kind of stuff. If you didn't know all that, you could just sit with this on your lap and truly appreciate where the score comes in, how the score is introduced, where the tension is, where the excitement comes, and how the music like interacts with that bit. So Jurassic Park score maps, if you type in score maps, there's definitely a website. You found him, Brendan, or not?
No, it's the same thing. The Santiago Barks, his
That's him.
his website Scoring World still exists, but it no longer connects to the score maps part of it. It looks like it might have changed over or something happened. Unfortunately, the score maps part does not exist.
Yeah. But anybody want to do these? They're great. I would happily do them, but it'll take me forever, and I'm spending most of my time doing Film Hang logo stuff. But yeah, as I said, really great moment, really great thing, and it's highly excitable. This is the bit I'm looking at that comes sort of 17 to 20 minutes in. It's where we're introduced to this island theme, and it's just one of the coolest moments ever. You are trying to imagine sitting there, right? You've got Michael Crichton's book, you've probably got an initial script, and you're trying to come up with a way to have people arrive at this, what is going to be a theme park with dinosaurs, and you're trying to encapsulate the awe, the wonder, the amazement, you know, and this idea of motion without threat, this idea of there's no threat right now. We don't see anything going wrong with this right now. Okay, because we're in the mindset now of these scientists, Sam Neill, all that kind of stuff, right? We're not expecting anything negative to happen. So it's all very exciting, adventurous, and this is what it sounds like, and it's one of my favorite bits. In fact, yeah, I'll click this one so we can see it with the film. By the way, the world building in this, Spielberg smashes it. Every single bit of this bit is foreshadowing. Every single element of this scene.
Dude, I got to
This
see
noise
Jeff
is weird.
Goldblum the other day. in
Oh,
West
did you?
Hollywood.
We haven't even spoken
Yeah.
about Soderbergh yet. We're going to bring that in.
Oh, I know.
Especially for a mathematician.
Let me move this on a bit so we can get to the bit when... There we go. Look. Old man looks over, Richard Attenborough.
There it is.
Trumpets. I'll tell you something cool about trumpets in a second.
Dude, adventure movies, where did they go? We were just talking about this the other day because I was revisiting
Texting about it,
King
weren't we?
Kong, another great movie, and it's just like, man, the adventure films of the 90s, 2000s, so 80s as well. It's like that segment just doesn't exist anymore.
No, you're right. It doesn't, and it's heartbreaking because you're right. King Kong, the Peter Jackson version, was awesome, right? And when you think Kong Skull Island was pretty good too, but you're right. We don't have these adventure movies. We don't. Even Indiana Jones wasn't as well received in the last one that they did with James Mangold than it was in the earlier ones. You know what I mean? Like
It's almost like
we
we're
used to have
so
these
far.
awesome.
Yeah, it's almost like we can no longer imagine a world like undiscovered. You know, there's just not a lot of that left. If anything, where our minds are, it's in this world of technology. Things like going on a journey into the Amazon seems like such a foreign concept in 2026. Maybe it's just audience appetites aren't there for it. Or if it is a journey film or like something like this, it needs to be a period piece at this point. I don't know.
I think the trying, Brendan. Like there was one with John Krasinski in it not long ago. That was like something to do with
Didn't
like the
that-
eternal.
Yeah.
What was it? The
The
eternal youth, and it
Fountain or
flopped.
something.
Yeah, Fountain of
Yeah.
Youth. That was it. Yeah, and it
Yeah.
flopped. And I think that the reason it flopped, and this is something Tarantino said this on a podcast. And there's a lot of people who kind of agree with Tarantino. A lot of people disagree with him. Whatever side you fall down upon, I agree with him on this, which is Tarantino said, we don't have a zeitgeist anymore, right? We don't have a collective. Everybody has seen the same
Excitement.
film. Like we can talk about Jurassic Park right now, and everybody can remember seeing that film, or the majority of people can remember seeing that film who are our age or slightly younger than us, right? Can remember seeing that film, remember the soundtrack. If I was to play it, they go, oh yeah, like there's a nostalgia that would kick in, right? And that doesn't happen as much anymore. There's not a
No.
collective, we've all seen that film. You know, we've all been and watched that film in the cinemas. We all know what happened. We all know this. We all know that. You can't reference like The Lion King like we used to. And everybody goes, oh, yeah, God, oh, where were you when you found out about Mufasa? You know, oh, God, that moment, how did you feel? You know, did you have to have your eyes covered by your parents, right? Mufasa's come out. Steve McQueen directed it, didn't he? Right? I think it was, right?
Yeah.
Didn't get anything. Like, nobody
Yeah,
knows it.
Barry
You
Jenkins
can't
did.
reference. Barry Jenkins, I'm wrong. Sorry, Steve McQueen. He did Hunger. I should have known. Steve McQueen doesn't do that kind of film. Blitz, he did, I think, at the same time. But yeah, Mufasa came out. Nobody can reference it because it's not the zeitgeist. We didn't all watch it. You know what I mean? And that's hard. It's made it very difficult to collectively enjoy film like we have, you know. And I hope that changes. I hope that becomes a thing, because even one battle after the other, I was talking to people about that last year, and there were people who just didn't know it, people who hadn't seen it, and I was like, this is bonkers. Like, I can't
Think about
have that
movies as
conversation
big
with
as
you.
like Oppenheimer, like even that movie, and that's probably the best example. Or like when a Nolan movie releases, like that's probably the best example of capturing the zeitgeist and having a collective conversation. But even still, I know a lot of people who never watched Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
You know,
And
it's just a different time.
And Barbie too. There were people who had either chose Barbie over Oppenheimer. There weren't all those who watched both. You know what I mean? So you
It
kind of had
almost
to
seems
divide your friends.
it almost seems people, especially within an entertainment and those that consume it, it seems like people are far more judgmental based on what they assume. So then they never go and watch the film, where I feel like in the past, people would go and watch the movie regardless of the critics, regardless of like box office receipts and all this stuff, to at least make their own judgment. And I see this in the gaming industry now. Games, people
yeah.
focus on how many people are playing the specific game, and then if it doesn't have a specific number of like daily recurring players, then people say, oh, it's going to fail and die, and then just kind of pan it off. You know, I see that in entertainment, where it's like people, if there's something they don't like about it, they'll write it off before even watching the movie or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that. And I think that
Yeah.
it takes an awful lot to get people out to go to the cinema. I think it takes an awful lot.
Yep.
Like, I was talking to people who are obviously they've just had the Michael premiere. We will get back to John Williams in a second, but they've just had the Michael premiere over in Berlin, and it's, you know, gone down very well from what I've heard, and from what I've seen as well. Some people who are film critics have been kind of breaking their embargo and saying that they've enjoyed it. But the Prince of Pop, or the King of Pop, as people might call him, right? Like, who is pretty universally, you know, acknowledged as one of the greatest musical acts ever. Whatever, you know, people say about his personal life and stuff, you know, his music was incredible. Like, even that is kind of, people are saying, you know, are deciding whether to go to the cinema and watch that or not. You know what I mean? People are,
Yeah.
you know, we're wondering whether that's going to be a massive hit, and there's going to be people worldwide who are going to go and see it, and then everybody will have that to talk about, or not. The Odyssey, I think, will get a massive bunch of people going to the cinema
yeah.
to see it. You know what I mean? And that will finally give
Dune.
us something to all talk about. Dune 3, I'd agree with you. Yeah, that'll probably hit. You know,
Yeah.
but even then, I think Dune 2 didn't hit as hard as Dune 1. You know, I think that once we get sequels, they start to diminish almost in terms of anticipation.
Which
You know what I
was
mean? In
not the
terms of, like,
case back in the day. Think of like The Lord of the Rings, Return to the King. The film only built momentum. Harry Potter, same thing, only built momentum as it went into its final act. Even The Hunger Games is probably the same deal. Yeah. Super fascinating.
Yeah. It's strange, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, what's good is there are a lot of it. We said it last week with the drama. You know, a lot of original films right now that are coming out that are exciting. You know, and this one at the time was highly original. I mean, it was
Right.
the peak of filmmaking. You know, if we go back to it, as I said, how do you introduce a CGI dinosaur? John Williams did it with that amazing reverential hymn-like theme. You know what I mean? And that's one of the things we've come to see here. Let me share my screen again. I took it off so they could see our faces for a little bit. Let me throw this one back up.
Everyone loved it. We're
Yeah.
getting a lot of comments that they loved seeing our face.
Ah, see, thanks, guys. Yeah, but again, like back to this thing here. Everybody remembers this scene, the bit when he turns the head. It's brilliantly it parodied in Ted 2, by the way, if anybody has seen that film. We're talking about sequels, so there it is. Oh, yeah, and by the way, on the subject of sequels, before I get into this, like John Williams is a great example of somebody who can reuse material and find a way to recompose it or weave it in from the first one, so that anybody who is, remembers the first film, it kind of gives them that little nudge to, oh yeah, this is that, or this is that. There's that kind of thing in there. He does it in Star Wars. He does it with Jurassic Park and The Lost World. The same kind of thing. So yeah, very cool. But this is one of my favorite bits in any film ever. And what I love most is you hear these kind of little runs. It's building up. What the hell is this? It's tension. What's he seeing? What's he frightened of? And then the mood changes entirely in a millisecond from being this, what could it be? Minor key, right? We're in these little flourishes. What could it be? And then we get this hymn-like, that magisterial thing. It's beautiful. Now we change into the major key. It's all okay. Don't worry, guys. You're not going to get eaten. And remember, 1994, the people watching this, they'd never seen CGI of this level before. If they wanted to see CGI of any level, it was used in Young Sherlock, right? As the, what was it? The stained glass window knight. This was something entirely new. And talk about collective gasps in the cinema. This is a moment where the whole crowd went, what? Like, it's mesmerizing. How do you show scale in music? This is the token example. I bet my nieces would say this looks a bit shit now.
Oh, I know.
That's the saddest thing. Back in the day, we're like, I've just seen a real dinosaur. Oh my god.
Dude, back when you're a kid watching, even I was just watching King Kong, I'm like, man, it does feel a little dated in some aspects, but as a kid, you can't even tell the difference. I was like, this crap looks real, and I look back at these movies, not that they look bad, but man.
Well, I said to do you know what I said to you on Tuesday? I said, because you were like, I'm watching King Kong, Peter Jackson. I was like, watch the bit in Central Park. It looks amazing. And I'd said it, and I was like, I need to go back and watch this because I love it. It's got James Newton Howard's score on it. It's so good. And I clicked it on, and I was like, wow, the monkey. Oh, sorry, not the monkey. King Kong looks a little bit. He's not exactly like cutting edge in terms of CGI. In that scene alone, I was like,
but it
man,
felt,
yeah,
I mean, it was at the time super cutting edge. I mean, still some of it holds up because the way they shot it and implemented the CGI works. But yeah, it's tough. That's the unfortunate thing about some of these movies. Yeah.
Look at the way that introduced King Kong. It was the same thing. We talk about Jaws, we talk about Jurassic Park. The way that they held off, like there's a bit in that memory serves correctly. Isn't there a bit where there's like a tribe and they hang her up on these kind of like horns, and she's held out like almost like an offering to King Kong?
She's held out like into the gate. Dude, it takes an hour and something. I remember when the movie was coming out, the big like controversy or buildup was like King Kong, this 3-hour plus magnum opus by Peter Jackson. It takes an hour before you even get to see King Kong in the movie, but it's an awesome buildup. And then once the film gets rolling, I mean, there's that moment when Naomi Watts' character literally gets caught by the tribe and goes up onto the gate, and they they tied like the wooden posts, and she gets put out there, and then all of a sudden King Kong comes up, and it's that scream that Naomi Watts has where everything goes quiet, and that's when all of the characters, being Adrian Brody's character and Jack Black, they know something's really wrong, and then that's when you see King Kong. It's just so good. I love the world.
It's brilliant.
So good.
It is good. I mean, Peter Jackson's the guy for that, and he's amazing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and like, I was talking before, just getting it back onto this really, because I could easily go into all these different things that we've seen that are amazing. But like talking about this, one of the coolest bits in Jurassic Park, and I didn't even know this until I properly started studying this. I used to love this Triceratops scene. And I used to love this Triceratops team because it's the moment where that fear of dinosaurs, that fear of them is kind of reframed, and they're now not a threat. They're like living beings. We see this sick Triceratops, and it's really brilliantly written because that scene is so well done. It's now a patient. It's not an attraction. It's not a theme park. It is now something. And we see this Ellie, I think her name is, like Laura Dern's character, right? She, it's not Laura Dern. What's her name? Whatever, right? The female scientist, she becomes like a nurse. She starts taking care of the Triceratops. You know what I mean? And we see that in this moment. I play it now for you without the soundtrack. Like, really, the soundtrack is kind of held back. It's way in the back. Remember when I told you about Skirt Sofa,
Yeah.
Motorcycle, and Orchestra? That amazing scoring that John Williams did was completely blown up by a motorcycle chase that kind of you couldn't even hear the score as well, right? Same with this. This is about a sick Triceratops, right? That these two have kind of climbed out of their vehicle and they're now looking after. And I won't play you the whole scene, but I'll play you about 30 seconds of the scene without the score being highlighted as it is in the film. And then I'll play you it from this guy, B. Radfrey, or Brad Frey as we call him, right? Him doing it with the score highlighted and turned up and the volume up and the dialogue down, and you'll hear just how much is going on behind a scene that you love, because it blew me away. And I think that if it blows me away, then hopefully it'll blow you away. But here's the scene as it is in the film. All right.
Okay.
Don't be scared. Come on, it's okay. Muldoon, tranquilize her for me. She's sick.
Very romantic music, beautiful. It's almost like a love scene, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It kind of is scoring their love of dinosaurs, I suppose, because these are people who have studied dinosaurs for years, Laura Dern. They've studied dinosaurs for decades. You know what I mean? They've only dealt with bones, and now they're seeing it live in the flesh. You know what I mean? And it's this sense of awe as well as being a sense of kind of caring and nurturing. It's a beautiful scene, okay? Now, if I play you the scoring behind that scene, it's got the little video in the bottom there, so you can actually see where it lines up. But I'll play you that scoring now with that scene, and look at how detailed John Williams writes this music. He doesn't need to, but he does, and that's the beauty of this as a score. And I've been very fortunate to see this with an orchestra once. I would kill to see it many, many times because it's so brilliantly done. And as I said, you could pick this out and just listen to this on its own. You don't need the film with it. That's how good this music is. Have a listen to this.
Whoa.
Well, let me make that bigger so you can actually see
Everybody
this.
stay here.
Thank you, B. Radfrey or Brad Frey. So we start off with this sense of fear. Oh, what could it be? Same thing as when he's sitting in the car. What could it be? We haven't approached on it. And then this, oh, it's all okay. Don't worry. It's something good, you know? And you can see the score here. Duh, this bit here.
I'll have to check out this channel.
It's great. Brad Frey nails it. And I tell you what, credit to him. Go and follow him because he doesn't have an awful lot of followers. 65,700 is a drop in the ocean compared to a lot of sites these days. It deserves it because he's showing you every bit. He's reduced the score down so you can pick out all the little elements of it, you know? And this is happening here. We've got, you know, we're cutting down all that dialogue that they're about to have so that we can really appreciate John Williams' great scoring that's really subdued in this scene. You know, it's been so well written. And it's a love theme. It's so brilliantly written. And it's one of the lesser stated or music-wise scenes in this film.
Balance. So you can have one.
Just so much nuance. There's so much in there. And as I said, like we have that little bit there where she comes in because she's actually witnessing adults falling in love with the thing that they fell in love with when they were probably her age. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Dinosaurs. It's what an exceptional piece of writing. Create a love theme for humans and dinosaurs. Done. And there it is. Light strings, gentle woodwinds, very little brass except for these beautiful horn bits, and then some harps they've thrown in there too. It's one of the coolest scenes of all time. Again, if you guys want to listen to it, look at things like the T-Rex scene. No music at all. Nothing. Let's let this play out. Let's let this be terrifying. You know what I mean? Let's create outright terror. Let's have a guy eating off the toilet. Brilliant. You know, exceptional. Just entire sound. Same thing for the Velociraptor scene. There's hardly any scoring in it. And then you finish that film with one of the coolest flourishes, like an adventure piece of theme where everything kind of falls apart, everything disappears, and they get the hell off the island as quick as they can. It's really cool. And the Jurassic Park score is one of my favorites. Brendan, you ready for another logo? You ready for another one?
Oh, nice. This one is less involved, but still equally as good.
I love it. Mate, look at it. Like the Indiana Jones style. You know what I mean? I tell you what.
It looks great.
Yeah. I mean, it means nothing. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't get me anywhere. But at the same time, I was proud to have done it. It was like a moment when I could sit back and sort of thank myself. Indiana Jones, I've already talked about it. I don't need to go into too much on this, but if you want to follow this again, David McCauley's another one, right? He's got 25,000 followers. He breaks down the skirt sofa, motorcycle, and orchestra. That cool one. It's very, very fast paced, very, very kind of tense music that accompanies a motorcycle chase in Indiana Jones. Everybody knows Indiana Jones. It was corn gold. It was bringing back the hero theme. If you put this theme over the Adventures of Robin Hood with Errol Flynn when he's drunk on oranges, right, then it would fit, right? Because it's that kind of thing. Every time that Indiana Jones jumps on a horse, every time he swings on a rope, every time that he gets his whip out, every time that he's riding on a boat, on a car, on a tank, anything, on a plane, we get this theme. And it's instantly recognizable. That's the beauty of leitmotif, because we get these themes playing. I'll finish with this because I know we've kind of gone on for an hour and 45 minutes now. I could spend decades on it, because if we were to go through John Williams's music, there's tons of it. Look at all of it. It's too much, right? It's absolutely unbelievable when you look through all of his music. But Schindler's List for me is one of the most impossible tasks in music. How do you convey such a harrowing event and time period? You know what I mean? How do you do it? You know, we all know the girl in the red coat scene, which is absolutely heartbreaking. John Williams used different techniques, and I put them all here because I really wanted to kind of throw some Italian phrases your way, Brendan, so I could seem a little bit less like a Northern Englishman and more like a European, have a bit of European flair. If you ever listen to the Schindler's List theme, and I'll play it here, this comes from the end of Schindler's List, when all of the Schindler Jews, so all the people that Oscar Schindler saved by having them work in his factories and save them from, the gas chambers and from the concentration camps, they all, at the end of Schindler's List, appear walking through the fields and appear at Schindler's graveside and put rocks on his grave. And we hear the theme that John Williams wrote for Schindler's List. Everything is scaled down.
Oh,
where'd I go?
There you are.
We've just heard Jurassic Park. I don't know what happened then. We've just heard Jurassic Park. We've just heard this massive romantic sort of adventure theme. This is the opposite. This is somebody going, right, I'm going to scale this down to pretty much a violin played by Itzhak Perlman. And this violin theme, these are the different things that are in there. And whilst it's playing, I'll talk you through them, right? Because that way it saves us getting thrown off if I talk over it. This is the Schindler's List theme. Absolutely stunning, beautiful. He uses what's called portamento, which is basically between the notes, like dear, dear. That's sliding between notes and it's evocative of somebody crying. And that's something that really does impact upon it. The rubato phrase, and I've talked about rubato before, Brendan, this idea of pulling back and pushing. And as my old conductor used to say in band, you can't take without giving back. You can't give without taking back. Every time you have to stay within the tempo of the music, but you can pull it back and you can push and you can push and then you can pull it back. And you hear that throughout this. Ishak Perlman does a phenomenal job with it. Then this other thing, it's in the higher register, it's right up there. And it's that idea of fragility, that idea of it being incredibly difficult, just like these people struggle, incredibly lonely, incredibly, isolated, all that kind of stuff, vulnerable, all those kind of words are in there. And then this idea of he doesn't bring the whole orchestra. We don't have an awful lot of horns, brass, trombones, don't have a lot of percussion. There's not a lot of drums in there. There's not a lot of that kind of stuff because we want every note to feel exposed. We want this grief to be out there. And then when all the other strings come in, as you've just heard there, that's this idea of collective mourning, which is what you're literally witnessing on the screen now. All these people who went through the same difficult thing. There's no spectacle, there's no harmony, there's no big harmonic power, there's no orchestral power. It's just fragile. And there's an awful lot of holding back. And that's what I think's so clever about this music. And as John Williams said, he didn't think he could score it. But his disbelief in himself actually led to what I would say is one of the best scores of all time. Yeah, it's masterful. And did you ever hear the story about Spielberg submitting this to USC as his final?
Oh, yeah, I did, which is crazy. Crazy.
When you think about everybody else who was in his class, I bet they were so angry.
Yeah, absolutely insane.
Yeah.
I mean, good for him. Dude operates on another level, that's for sure.
Brilliant film, by the way. I know that it's not easy for people to watch. It's not an easy watch. But like Hamnet's not an easy watch. You know what I mean? And these films that are incredibly difficult and very full of grief, but actually incredibly cautifying. It allows you to feel something that you don't feel in every film. I think that it's one of the most exceptional films ever made. And the use of color in that film is mind-blowing, or lack of color, The other thing I'd say in that, by the way, in Schindler's List is also maybe not even John Williams' use of music, but the use of other music other than just John's that really does have an impact. When when Oscar Schindler is introduced, we get this Argentine tango that's actually what's it called? Por uno cabeza, right? This like Argentine tango, and it really does help us to learn who Schindler was. It's very kind of dancey kind of thing. It shows that he's this cosmopolitan, kind of suave, sophisticated guy. And this music is exceptionally well used. In the same way, when we have the girl in the red dress and the Warsaw Ghetto is being overthrown by Gestapo agents and Nazi soldiers and stuff like that, you have this like children's nursery rhyme used. Again, using music to this innocence of the nursery rhyme juxtaposing the horror of the situation and people literally being hunted. You know what I mean? It's incredibly well done. And I just used a tiny bit of this now. Again, it's not necessarily from John Williams' score, but this beautiful, haunting nursery rhyme, you know what I mean, being used for this harrowing moment. Yeah, exceptional. So again, if you want to hear any other music, by all means, there's some great stuff out there. Look at this guy's work. I mean, look at it. Daddy-O, not the Sean Penn and Dakota Johnson one that came out that was about them in a taxi drive that came out last year, but The Killers, which was a massive.
He did the 1970s Jane Eyre.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
He did Fiddler on the Roof. Like he scored it throughout the film. The Cowboys is a really cool one. I'm not sure if John Wayne's in it, which is very stereotypical, but The Cowboys is a great, heroic, kind of very early Indiana Jonesy flavor in that. Poseidon Adventure is cool. Another great one, Long Goodbye, the one with Elliot Gould in it. Scored that one. And Brendan, like I've highlighted the ones that I knew or that I like remember listening to as a soundtrack in itself. So like I was going through, this is stuff that anybody who's still listening, who's listened to me prattle on for like an hour and a half, right? They can like look through this and remember any of those there. But Sugarland Express was another one. Towering Inferno. Jaws was 1975. I think that was when he really came into his own. Spielberg actually thought that he was joking when he played him the he thought it was like, yeah, go on, where's the rest of the score? But it turned out to be one of his best. Star Wars was 1977. Midway was another World War II film that he did. Close Encounters was there. Then you go through, like you were saying,
Presumed Innocent. Yeah.
yeah, it's mesmerizing, isn't it? When you go through Witch of Eastwick, brilliant. Born on the 4th of July with Tom Cruise is a brilliant film. And it's got this trumpet sort of like where the trumpets would usually be used in like kind of American Army, kind of like da, 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 like very kind of like da, 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 or anything like that. In Born on the 4th of July, it's haunting. It's almost Schindler's Listy in terms of this heartbreaking trumpet sound. It's because it's about this soldier who comes back from war and he's paralyzed. Tom Cruise, incredible performance. And that music helps convey this kind of thing where he's incredibly isolated, incredibly, what the lie he was told when he signed up to the army is conveyed through a trumpet playing a real kind of heartbreaking theme. Like you go back through, Brendan, take a look at how this guy was doing in the 90s. I mean, my goodness. Hook, which got panned, right? Pardon the pun. Hook got panned, right? That soundtrack is awesome, right? It's brilliant. Hook is an awesome soundtrack. Flight into Netherland is great, right? And I heard it played by the LA Phil because they do this thing for John Williams every year that's like in September. And it's such a cool night. They play live with different clips and stuff like that, just kind of like what we've done tonight, but on a grandiose scale with lots of musicians. And Hook is always in there and it's always great, as is Far and Away in 1992, I think. Ron Howard. It's Nicole Kidman, Tom Cruise, and it's all about the Irish coming to America and getting land and manifest destiny and all that kind of stuff. And it's really cool. It's got these kind of Irish jiggy kind of played on a violin. One of my wife's favorite soundtracks, Far and Away. And the fact that the woman says Joseph, which, do you like that impression, Brandon?
That was great.
But yeah, as I said, you look through his work, it's incredible. And if you like me and you've got like an Apple Music account, you can do a John Williams thing and it will go on for like 19 hours and the music's incredible. So yeah, highly recommend him. He is arguably one of my favorite.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you have a specific movie in which you feel like his composition didn't quite come together in the way you feel like it could have? Is there one in particular, like, ooh, I feel like he missed the mark there? Have you ever come across anything John Williams or like, ooh, I think maybe this was a little undercooked, or for the most part, do you think he always hits pretty like on the spot?
I think he's always pretty much on the spot, but yeah, I mean, there's times where, I mean, like people will say, like, here's a great example, right? 7 Years in Tibet is a great film, right? But if you listen to his music separately, like some people will say it's undercooked, but because it's just Yo-Yo Ma on it's Yo-Yo Ma on cello in it, and then it has these really sweeping kind of do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do. It's gorgeous, you know what I mean? But did that one get him an Oscar nom? I don't think it did. But I love that film and I love the music in it. I'm trying to think. Angela's Ashes, it didn't really stand out to me. His soundtrack, like I remember when I used to teach English back in England, that was one that we used to put on the film when we'd finish reading it with like 17-year-olds. And I don't remember sitting there and going, oh my God, listen to this soundtrack like I'd usually do, because like I'm a bit obsessive like that. So yeah,
I'm looking at a Reddit thread. People say the BFG, which I've never seen that movie. It's not very good.
Do you know what? Yeah. I mean, I don't think it was necessarily his score that caused that, though. It wasn't like a great
movie
retelling
overall.
of the film. Yeah, I think so. On saying that, the guy who played the BFG, I can't remember his name, but he's also the guy who's in Bridge of Spies.
Mark Rylance.
Mark Rylance, and he's great in it. You know what I mean? By the way, Bridge of Spies, is that on this list? I don't think it is. He scored Bridge of Spies, John Williams, so I don't know why that's not on the list. Blame the person who copied and pasted it. But yeah, I mean, mate,
Not good,
like,
Chris.
I'm looking through right now and trying to figure out where John didn't really like hit a home run, and it's tough because I tell you what, there's so much detail in his scores. I mean, like, I wish I could have got my friend Tony on. So I directed a documentary in 2020, that's called Song for Hope, that was all about this trumpet player from Dallas Symphony Orchestra, phenomenal trumpet player, and he loved John Williams because John Williams' trumpet parts are the coolest trumpet writing in the world, and it's because John loved brass music. He grew up, as I said, he's a musician who played a brass instrument. And John, actually, this is a really interesting fact. John loved a guy called Maurice Murphy. And Maurice Murphy was a British trumpet player who played for the London Symphony Orchestra and in fact, if you listen to Star Wars, if you watch Star Wars, the first note, that first top note, that first note is Maurice Murphy hitting that note, right? And John Williams always said, I will continue writing music as long as Maurice Murphy is playing it, right? He always said that. In fact, Maurice Murphy played on all the Harry Potter themes. I haven't even included Harry Potter here. That would have been a great logo I could have done for the film, man, right? But he played on the Harry Potter themes. He played on all of them. Like, if you were a trumpet player in a John Williams soundtrack, 9 times out of 10, it's Maurice Murphy playing it. I think he played on the Superman theme as well. Okay, so
Yeah.
trumpet wise, he was the guy. Okay, and Ryan used to worship Maurice Murphy and was actually played alongside Maurice Murphy on a few recordings, right? And Ryan's best friend was a guy called Tony DiLorenzo, composer who plays principal trumpet for the Seattle Symphony Orchestra, right? And I wanted to get Tony on today, but he's just been away to Asia and I think he's jet lagged. But Tony used to take John's scores. He used to work at Skywalker Ranch. He used to take John's scores and he would condense them down for things like trailers. Okay, so make them into a 2.5 minute long trailer, and he would take these scores and just rewrite them into this. And fantastic stories that he's told me about John Williams. And every time that I talk to Tony and I ask him about John Williams, he tells me these great stories. And I also, he's done other things. I think he did the Iron Giant trailer, which is cool as hell. I think he did the trailer for Forrest Gump. Like, he's done some really
That's
cool stuff.
sick.
And he scored the music for my documentary. And it is John Williams, because I literally sat with him and we waxed lyrical about John Williams every time that I phoned him up and we wanted to do like a confab about what music we would like for this documentary. And I will say this, like, don't get me wrong, the soundtrack, is like massive for a documentary that's about a musician, but heck, why would you go half measures? Why would you not like go hell for leather and go, listen, I want to have this amazing soundtrack? Because even if the documentary doesn't do anything, even if the documentary doesn't succeed, I want to be able to have this soundtrack and be able to have people listen to it. And it's been played on things like Classic FM all over the world, and it's been played and it's been reviewed and talked about in like Hong Kong in music magazines, and classical orchestras have asked if they can play the music along with the film because they want to play that score. So it's very, very important to me that I have that. And as I said, Tony wrote this incredible music, all inspired by John Williams. And I dread to think that there's a person out there today, or not dread to think, I don't think there is a person out there today that is composing music for film that isn't a John Williams fan and isn't somebody who has been influenced by John Williams. You certainly hear it with Daniel Pemberton. And I think that you also hear it with, Lena Sangren. And these, not Lena Sangren, Christ. Why would a DP be inspired? It's not Lena Sangren I'm thinking
Yeah,
of.
dude, he
Who's the wrong
probably
thing?
is. He probably is.
The guy from Sinners. Who's the guy I'm thinking of from Sinners?
Oh, Ludwig Göransson.
Ludwig Göransson. Why did I say Lena Sangren? Lena Sangren's definitely been inspired. But yeah, Ludwig Göransson has definitely been inspired. Like, these people are carrying that mantle on. And as I said, it's cool. John Williams was the original GOAT, and his music will always be something that I will enjoy listening to. And happy 97th birthday, whenever that is. Oh,
Dude, Chris, you absolutely killed it today with that dissertation level breakdown of John Williams. And I think it's proof in the pudding, it's that craftsmanship and it's that excitement and curiosity that he had, and also an incredible time and place considering where he started his career in the like 50s, like you were talking about, moving to Los Angeles, working in jazz clubs, getting to work with these seminal artists that were composers at the time, inventing the medium of what it is today. And we see ultimately where that puts him today is still an active composer working on what will ultimately be his final works. But that being
Mhm.
said, he is going to be someone that passes the proverbial like torch off to other composers to come. And it's super exciting to see how someone of his stature can still make an impact and will be continuing to make an impact, not only many years. I mean, it's going to be a long time. John Williams is the same as a Amadeus in a lot of ways. These people that whose names are going to be passed around because he was a part of this movie and he had this happen in culture XYZ. And it was in Chris. I know that you've been wanting to speak to him for a very long time. An awesome job. You really took that one to the
Oh,
goal line.
thanks so much, man. Yeah, and look, the film hang, and I know that we're looking at ways that we can involve our viewership more. We're looking at ways that we can get people involved. But my reason for choosing this is because, again, I talked to my father-in-law, I talked to my dad, I talked to my wife, I talked to like lots of people of all different ages, and they just know this music. You know what I mean? Even some of them who
Yeah.
don't know the guy behind it, they know the music, and that is something that will always stay. And you know, it's incredible because yeah, I love him. I really do. And we're very fortunate to live in a time where we have Disclosure Day coming out this year and John Williams is scoring it. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm sure he's got a lot of people helping him. He's 96, for goodness sake. But
Yeah.
incredibly cool that this guy is still in some way, even by name, involved in writing music still. And we are fortunate, you and I, that we live in LA and we can go and watch, you know, the LA Phil performing his music. And we are
Dude.
fortunate. We live in LA, and at the Hollywood Bowl for 3 nights, possibly 4 nights every year, around about September time, they have John Williams live. And sometimes he's brought out on stage. I've been fortunate enough in the last few years to see him actually conduct a lot of these. Last year he didn't because he was in ill health. But like, what an honor, what a tribute. And Steven Spielberg has come out and done it. In fact, I'll tell you this before we finish. One of the coolest things Spielberg did was he came out and he said, "Let me show you my cut of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Let me show you the bit on the train at the beginning when River Phoenix is being chased by these guys who are after the it belongs in a museum. You know that like he's
Yeah.
got like a gold cross. There is that scene he played start to finish, and it's 5 minutes long, and you felt every second of those 5 minutes, right? It was long, it was drawn out, it was difficult. And even Spielberg said, I would have cut here, I would have cut there, and I've had to do this. He said, right, now listen to it with the LA Phil playing John's score for this whole section. And I tell you what, you wanted to just live in that moment. It was brilliant. You
Mhm.
realize then that's what music does to cinema. And I wish that everybody in the world
It's
had
the
seen it.
soul.
Sadly, it wasn't filmed. It's so good. And it just shows you what music does for film. It shows you what it did there in terms of pacing, in terms of emotion, in terms of everything. And that's when I will always love John's music for that. So yeah, we've been fortunate. What do you think we do next, Brendan? Have you got any ideas? Do we want to throw it open to people? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think for the
Have I
next
put you on
film
the
hang,
spot?
well, I think we have the next film hang with everything coming up. I know Michael's on the docket. We're super excited to talk
Yeah.
about. And Chris, that's one that you actually had the chance to work on. And you're going to be able to bring a firsthand perspective of what it was like working underneath Antoine Fuqua and the rest of the team, Dion Beebe, to bring this pop culture icon to life. I know that's going to be happening. I think we're doing that, April 26th. That's going to
In
be the
26,
week
yeah.
for when Michael comes out. So definitely try to watch that as soon as possible. I think that's going to be a really
Mhm.
awesome discussion. I was just looking at least for films that are coming up that I'm super excited. One, this is down the line, but I did not know Ridley Scott had another movie in the works that's literally going to be coming out on. I literally just saw it while you were talking. The Dog Stars. Have you seen this movie? It's
No, I
Jacob
didn't know anything about
Elordi,
it.
Margaret Qualley, Guy Pearce, Josh Brolin, Benedict Wong. It looks like it's not going to come out until August 28th is when it's expected to release. In a post-apocalyptic world, a virus wipes out humanity. Survivors face roaming scavengers called Reapers. Protagonist Hid, a pilot, survives the flu but lost his wife. So that's another Jacob Elordi movie, but I don't know. Let's noodle on it. There's so many films we
Yeah.
can do. And I love when we focus on either one movie or we focus on one talent. I think this was a really awesome experience just to be able to talk to John Williams directly. I know I'm really
Yeah.
excited. Next week, Mother Mary comes out, which is the new what's it called? David Lowery film, which I would
Yeah.
love to be able to talk about that. I did get to see the Christophers last night, which Steven
That's it.
Soderbergh was there, and that was a really awesome film. I don't know if it's worthy for the film hang, but if you are a Soderbergh fan and you always want a new Soderbergh film, I highly recommend it. I mean, it's Ian McKellen. For those that love, Gandalf and Sir Ian McKellen, this is definitely one to go out of your way and watch, just because the dude is not going to be with us very much longer. And the fact that he's still able to act at the level that he's able to do is honestly incredible. And it's honestly what I loved about the most with the Christophers. It's a different type of movie for Steven Soderbergh, but it still has Steven Soderbergh's kind of like thriller sensibilities built into a very sentimental movie about two
Okay.
characters that are going through this this transition in both of their artistry. So highly recommended. I did get to hear Soderbergh talk back, which was really awesome. And the funny
what's he
thing
like?
that happened before, he was, dude. I mean, Soderbergh's probably one of the cooler filmmakers, at least in my opinion. I think his perspective on cinema is very unique. He's also a very funny dude, but right as the film was ending, they cut the credits short. Like the movie just went to credit sequence. I looked to my right, Steven Soderbergh was standing there like in the hall as you enter into the theater, and he literally was like, "What the fuck? Why did they cut the credits short?" And he turned to his publicist and was like, "They never cut the credits short, never fucking cut the credits." So then he enters, they introduce, which the woman who introduced Steven Soderbergh did not give him the right title. And he literally grabbed the microphone. He was like, "You never cut the credits to a movie. The end credits allow you to sit and think about the film. You guys just saw the movie end. Now I'm here and you've had no time to like percolate on the film."
Process.
And it
Yeah.
was like, we talk about this all the time. You should never cut credits short for any movie you watch. People should have to watch the credits and essentially see the like workers. But my first time ever seeing, who was honestly a hero of mine, in person to my right, was pissed off and like was upset at AMC for cutting the credit short. So that was an awesome introduction. But yeah, I highly recommend people seeing it. And going back to your point, Chris, there's so much awesome cinema out there, and things like the Christopher or Mother Mary. Go to the movies, go see the drama, go see these films. Everyone calls themselves a cinephile or they love movies, but then they never go to the theater. You know what I mean? We need
I
less
know
of it.
exactly what you mean.
So
Yeah. I think that the saddest thing is as well is that like we talked about it. If anybody didn't tune in on Tuesday, we talked about the drama and we said it is
yeah,
a very difficult subject matter, but very, very cleverly handled and
yeah,
great dark humor that comes from a place of very difficult upbringing, I'll call it. And watching it with a crowd of people is a really interesting experience, and interesting in a really good way. And you're hearing where the laughter comes from, and it just settles you into that difficult subject
yeah,
matter and settles you into, oh, it's okay. We're okay to kind of be involved in this. We're okay to laugh at this subject matter. We're okay to laugh at how
yeah,
it's being presented. It's something that I would have maybe giggled a little bit at when I was at home watching it. But when you're in a crowd of people, you hear how it hits, and it's kind of something different. And I know there's lots of people saying right now that we need films to we need filmmakers to films to do this, and we need to get films to get people
yeah,
out there and to get people in the cinemas. I know that there's people like Ryan Coogler and his producers and others that are involved in a new initiative to try and save cinemas and stuff like that. But honestly, like I keep saying it, if you go to the cinema to watch these movies, like Michael, I'm hearing from the Berlin premiere that people were dancing in the aisles at the end when the credits are coming up. People are showing their love for the character or showing their love for the movie itself by enjoying Michael's music, and you know, that's something that is a unique, as I said, experience that you can't really get at home. And you wouldn't because it's you on your own at home, or you with a spouse at home, or
Yeah.
you with just a small group at home. Go and watch it. Go and be with other people, because it really matters, especially at this time when a lot of people around the world are fractured. It is good to be together in a movie theater and watch something and have that collective experience. It's fascinating. As I said, it's something I want to happen. It's something I hope happens with the movies we've got coming out this year. Definitely.
I think we have a really strong slate and we're super excited. Like we said, Michael's going to be up next unless we want to fit something in between now and then. That is something that you can register for right now on Filmmakers Academy or save for later on YouTube. We have this listed here. There's a ton of good movies. You know what, Chris? I think this year is going to have a lot of heavy hitters. I mean, we have things like The Devil Wears Prada 2, which already has a built-in fan base. People are excited about that. You know, Mortal Kombat 2 is going to hit in some capacity. Even interesting enough, this new Billie Eilish like music documentary that's co-directed by James Cameron that's delivered in 3D. That alone is a James Cameron experience that I'm going to be excited to want to speak to. I'm not the biggest Billie Eilish fan. I appreciate her for an artist, but James Cameron using the technology that he's been learning with 3D and Avatar to put into a concert film. That's the type of stuff that I want to see filmmakers doing. We have Obsession. We have two young guns coming in with big movies. Obsession being the Curry Barker YouTuber that has a film by Focus Features that I think is going to be great. We have the director from Back Rooms that has his film coming out that also looks equally great.
Right?
Yeah, two people in their 20s operating with their first big feature. I'm excited to see that. I know there's a ton of other films that are going to be coming out during the Cannes Film Festival time that I know you and I don't even, let's just look at the lineup real quick. I think that alone is worth the segment.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is there's no
that I'm excited.
Oh yeah, Fjord or Fjord. Yeah, that's the one I think a lot of people are pushing towards to win what's it called? The Palm this year. That's kind of the front runner based on what I've seen. I mean, there's a ton of movies announced, not a lot of American filmmakers, but I think there's a couple that they have yet to announce, and some people think it could be the new Terrence Malick movie, which might still be in post-production, might not make it. James Gray is another movie that could potentially be some of the final missed. Here's actually 17 unmissable releases coming to Cannes 2026. Fatherland, which is the new Paweł Pawłowski film, the guy who did Cold War and Ida, which is a great movie. Yeah. We have Nicholas Winding Refn coming back out of competition for Her Private Hell, which I'm excited. We haven't had a Nicholas Winding Refn feature in over a decade. That has the girl who's in the lead actress that's in that film Companion. Have you seen that movie?
No, I haven't.
That came out last year. I think it's called Companion.
I'm gonna write it down to watch it. Companion, right?
Yeah. It's actually a really good film. Her Private Hell, let's look up. It's Sophie Thatcher.
Oh,
if you've seen her.
She's great. If you've not seen it, there's... Oh, yes, I have. Sorry, Companion I saw, because it's where she plays the robot. Am I right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She
There's
plays
a
the
great scene in that, by the way, when she's speaking German to that cop. It's brilliant. Yeah, I like that movie.
Dude, we have a new Ryusuke Hamaguchi film, which that says enough right there. I mean, he's a returning face. Yeah. I mean, there's so many. I mean, there's a lot of like new people on the scene. Not a lot of American filmmakers, though. I think there's like none.
No, that's
which is crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
but I mean,
Terrence Malick gets something in here.
Yeah, I mean, like he's got one coming out, hasn't he? What's his new one?
The Way of the Wind, but I don't know when it's coming out. It may come out in May. He's describing it as his final film.
Wowzers.
I mean, the dude's pretty old. I don't know, but
It's
we'll see.
mate,
There's definitely
it's
a lot around the
interesting.
corner.
Yeah, and we've also got things that are being made right now. I mean, I know I've seen a lot of BTS videos or pictures from Damien Chazelle's one that's got Cillian Murphy and Daniel Craig in it. That's all about a prison,
What is this one?
like a psychological prison drama by Damien Chazelle that's being filmed right now
nice.
with as I said, Cillian Murphy and Daniel Craig. That looks like it's going to be great. That is it Guadagnino's Digger? That's getting that. I mean, again, I said this on Tuesday. I don't know what that's about, and I'm super excited because it is the withholding method has been exceptionally used for that film because I know nothing, and the teaser shows nothing as well.
I know.
Hmm.
So wait, I thought Damien Chazelle was doing the Evil Knievel movie, so that got pushed.
I thought he was too. I think that must have been pushed, yeah, because he's definitely making this one that's like a psychological prison drama, and there's videos of him like on a headland, and I think he's in Ireland, but I might be wrong on that. Like filming that.
Yeah, Batista's
Also-
in it.
Yeah.
Michelle Williams is in it.
Also, credit to Taika Waititi. He's just bought a studio with Jason Momoa and oh god, I'm gonna get the person's name wrong. Yeah, but he's just bought a studio in New Zealand, so that's good. That means that we're gonna see some more stuff going on there. So yeah, hopefully,
Dude, you know what I'm
future
excited
looks
for?
bright. Yeah.
For New Zealand is this new Andy Serkis Lord of the Rings, The Hunt for Gollum
Oh, me
movie.
too.
Honestly, like,
Yeah,
dude, I'm down. I'm down.
me too. Yeah,
That's
I'm
what
super
Andy
excited. Do you know what?
Serkis needs to be doing.
Yeah. Do you know what? I don't mind as well, like the fact that there's another one that's the Stephen Colbert's writing one. I don't mind that. You know what I mean? Like the guy seems to know Lord of the Rings inside and out. He's writing one because Peter Jackson just announced that, and I was like, I'm in. I
Yeah.
don't care. Like if Peter Jackson's
He's like a
on board, then it's fine.
massive Lord of the Rings fan, like huge
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings nerd.
Yeah,
I
I'd
mean, I
rather
hope
somebody
it's
who
good.
knows the subject matter inside and out did something like this. You know what I mean? I'm glad of that, rather than just hiring somebody who's a great writer to write about a subject that they aren't familiar with. You know what I mean? I think that we've got a guy that's, and I think he said he was inspired by what's his name who did Barry, Bill Hader, right? He said, "Oh, Bill
Yeah.
Hader left SNL and then wrote this absolute groundbreaking series, and Barry's brilliantly written. I mean, the last series was awesome, right?" So yeah, I think he's been inspired by that. So once he leaves CBS, he'll be or whatever it is it CBS? Whoever it is. Once he leaves that station, he's going off writing a new Lord of the Rings movie. Good on.
Well, that's a great way to end this session, guys. That's John Williams. Make sure to follow us, like us, subscribe. We're going to announce what's next. Make sure to tune in. We try to do these once a week. And Chris, dude, this was you, honestly, like a Chris 2-hour power like session. So that was very impressive. And honestly, like I have nothing to add besides John Williams sick. Definitely revisit his works. Go look for some of his more obscure stuff. And yeah, awesome job, Chris.
Thanks so much, man. Thank you. And thanks so much to everybody for joining us on the Film Hand.
All right, guys, we'll see you on the next one. Peace.